The mop hits the hardwood floor at 6:47 in the morning, and I am thinking about how much I love this place. Rain drums against the skylights in a rhythm I have memorized over 7 years. Each drop sounds different depending on where it lands. The north window sings higher, almost like wind chimes. The south one thuds low and deep because of the crack in the seal I keep meaning to fix. I know this apartment the way most people know their own bodies. I know which floorboards creak, which cabinet hinges need oil, which corner of the bathroom collects condensation on cold mornings. I wring out the mop and watch dirty water spiral down the bucket. My reflection wobbles in the gray liquid. 29 years old, and I still cannot afford a cleaning service. But that is not why I do this myself. I do this because this is mine. Every wipe of the cloth, every scrub of the tile, every hour spent repainting the trim last summer. This place is the only thing in my life that feels real. My phone buzzes on the kitchen counter. The banking app notification glows like a small wound. I dry my hands on my jeans and pick it up. The screen shows my balance in neat black numbers. $3,250. My paycheck from the nonprofit where I work as a grant writer deposited yesterday at midnight. I stare at the figure for exactly 4 seconds. Then I open the transfer function. Recipient Kevin Bennett. Memo mortgage. Amount $2,800. My thumb hovers over the green button. I have done this every month for 7 years. 84 times. I have never been late, not once. Not even when I had the flu so bad I could not stand. Not even when my car broke down and I had to choose between the mechanic and groceries. The mortgage comes first. It always comes first. I press send. The balance updates. $450 left. That is my life until the 15th of next month. $450 for food. Gas, the electric bill, the internet I need for work, and whatever emergencies decide to show up uninvited. Last month it was a broken toilet handle. The month before a dead car battery. There is always something. I set the phone down and look at the wall by the kitchen window. A hairline crack runs from the ceiling to about eye level, barely visible unless you know where to look. I have stared at that crack 1,000 times. It appeared 3 years ago, and I have been meaning to patch it, but something about it feels important. Like a scar that tells a story. I remember the day I got the keys. 22 years old, fresh out of college, still believing that hard work meant something. My father had called me into his study, which even then smelled like cigar smoke and something metallic I could not name. He sat behind his desk with my mother standing beside him, her hand on his shoulder like they were posing for a portrait. The keys were on a small velvet box. Red velvet, like something you would put a ring in. "We bought this for you," my father said. His voice was warm that day. Almost proud. "The condo downtown, it is in our name for now because your credit is not established yet. The bank gave us a better rate this way. But you pay the mortgage, and when it is paid off, we transfer it to you. Simple as that." My mother smiled. She nodded along like a backup singer who knew all the words. "This is your home, Chloe," she said. "You earned it." I did not ask questions. I did not ask for paperwork, for contracts, for anything in writing. They were my parents. The people who raised me, fed me, clothed me, drove me to school every morning, and picked me up every afternoon. Why would I need a contract with my own family? I think about that girl sometimes. The one who took the keys with shaking hands and tears in her eyes. The one who said thank you so many times her voice cracked. The one who believed she was finally worth something. I do not know where she went. The crack in the wall catches the morning light, and I turn away. The drive to my parents' house takes 40 minutes on a good day, but today is Sunday, and the rain has turned the freeway into a slow parade of brake lights. I grip the steering wheel and watch the wipers drag across the windshield in uneven arcs. The left one squeaks. I have been meaning to replace it for 6 months. My car is a 12-year-old Honda with a dent in the passenger door and a check engine light that has been glowing steady orange since February. I call her Martha because she sounds like a grandmother when she starts up in the morning. Martha and I have an understanding. I do not push her too hard, and she does not die on the side of the interstate. The neighborhood where my parents live looks exactly the same as it did when I was a child. Ranch houses with perfect lawns, American flags hanging limp in the drizzle, SUVs sleeping in driveways like well-fed dogs. The Hendersons still have that ridiculous garden gnome collection. The Patels still park their boat on the street even though everyone complains about it. Nothing changes here. That is the point. I pull into my parents' driveway and kill the engine. The house is a split level painted the color of old teeth with brown shutters and a garage door that has been broken since I was in high school. My father always talks about fixing it. He never does. Through the front window, I can see the blue glow of the television. My mother will be on the couch, the same spot she has occupied every evening for as long as I can remember. She watches reality shows about people buying houses and cooking competitions where everyone cries. Sometimes I wonder if she knows there is a world outside that screen. I check my reflection in the rearview mirror. I look tired. There are shadows under my eyes that makeup stopped covering years ago, and my hair is doing that thing where it frizzes at the temples no matter how much product I use. I look like someone who is running out of something important, but cannot figure out what. I grab the bag of groceries from the back seat. Steaks, potatoes, a six-pack of the craft beer my father pretends to understand. This is my offering. Every Sunday I bring food, cook dinner, wash the dishes, and drive home in the dark, wondering why I keep doing this. The front door is unlocked. It always is. Mom, I call out. I am here. In here, her voice drifts from the living room. She does not get up. The living room smells like the cinnamon candle my mother burns, constantly mixed with the sour undertone of beer. My father is in his recliner, the one with the leather so worn it looks like an old glove. He is holding a can of something cheap and watching a football game on mute. He does not look up when I walk in. Hey, Dad, I say. He grunts. That is his greeting. My mother is exactly where I knew she would be. She has her feet tucked under her and a bowl of mixed nuts in her lap. On the screen, a woman is crying because her souffle collapsed. And then there is Tiffany. My sister is curled up on the other end of the couch, her face lit blue by her phone screen. She is wearing silk pajamas at 5 p.m, the kind that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Her hair is perfect. Her nails are perfect. Everything about her is curated to look effortless, which takes more effort than she will ever admit. Tiffany is 22, the same age I was when I got the keys to the condo. She does not look up when I enter. I set the grocery bag on the kitchen counter and start unpacking. The steaks need to come to room temperature before I cook them. The potatoes need scrubbing. I find a pan, a cutting board, a knife. I know this kitchen better than my own. I have cooked in it 1,000 times. You are late, my father says from the living room. His voice is not loud, but it carries. I can hear the accusation in it, wrapped in syllables like a gift nobody asked for. Sorry, I call back. Traffic was bad. He makes a sound that might be acknowledgement or might be dismissal. With him, it is hard to tell. I am rinsing the potatoes when he appears in the kitchen doorway. Kevin Bennett is 55 years old, but he carries himself like a man who believes age is something that happens to other people. He is still wearing his golf shirt from this morning, grass stains on the hem. His belly presses against the fabric, a testament to years of beer and inactivity. You transferred the mortgage late this month, he says. I set down the potato. I did not transfer it late. I transferred it yesterday morning, the same day I always do. It went through at 6:47 today, I say carefully. Same as always. He shakes his head. The bank flagged it, said the payment came after their cutoff time. There is a late fee now. I know this is not true. I know the payment went through exactly when it was supposed to. I have the timestamp on my phone, the confirmation email in my inbox. But I have learned that truth does not matter in this house. What matters is whatever reality my father has decided to construct. I am sorry, I say. I will be more careful next time. He nods like he has won something, like he has corrected a deficiency in my character, and I should be grateful for the lesson. Then he walks to the refrigerator and grabs another beer. Make sure you do, he says over his shoulder. I stand at the sink with wet hands and a potato I have been holding for too long. The water drips. The clock on the microwave blinks 7:15. Somewhere in the living room, the television audience laughs at something I cannot see. Dinner is at the table in the dining room, which is only used on Sundays when I come over. The rest of the week, my parents eat in front of the television. Tiffany eats in her room, or she does not eat at all, depending on which diet she is following. The steaks turned out well. I made a pan sauce with shallots and red wine, roasted the potatoes with rosemary from the garden my mother planted and then abandoned. The plates look like something from a restaurant. Nobody comments on this. My father eats with the focus of a man who believes food is fuel and nothing more. He cuts his steak into identical squares and chews exactly 8 times before swallowing. I used to count when I was young. I used to think there was a pattern I could learn, a code I could crack that would explain him to me. My mother pushes her food around her plate. She has been on a diet for as long as I can remember, which means she eats half of everything and then feels guilty about it. She compliments the sauce, but she does not finish it. And Tiffany. Tiffany is showing my father something on her phone. Her face is bright, animated, alive in a way it never is when she talks to me. She tilts the screen so he can see, and I catch a glimpse of a shoe. Sleek black, probably Italian. "I got these today," she says. "Are they not gorgeous?" My father leans in like he is examining a stock chart. "Nice," he says. "How much?" Tiffany waves her hand. A gesture that means the number does not matter because it never matters for her. They were on sale. Only $800. I think about the $450 in my bank account. I think about the steaks I bought because they were marked down, the potatoes I picked because they were the cheapest option, the beer I splurged on because I wanted my father to look at me the way he is looking at Tiffany right now. I look down at my own feet under the table. My shoes are black flats I bought 3 years ago at a discount store. The left one has a scuff on the toe that will not come out, and the sole is wearing thin at the heel. I can feel the cold floor through them when I walk. Tiffany is still talking about the shoes. About the brand, the craftsmanship, the influencer who wore them at some event. My father is nodding. My mother is nodding. They are a choreographed audience, perfectly synchronized. I clear my throat. The condo has a plumbing issue, I say. My voice sounds strange in the middle of their conversation, like a wrong note in a familiar song. The bathroom sink has been draining slow, and I think there might be a leak in the wall. I was hoping we could talk about getting someone to look at it. The table goes quiet. Not the good kind of quiet, not the contemplative silence of people considering a problem. This is the quiet of interruption, of transgression. I have broken an unspoken rule. My mother sets down her fork. "Chloe," she says, and her voice has that tone. The one that sounds gentle but is not. "Do not bother your father with that right now. You know he has been stressed about work. I do not know this. I do not know anything about my father's work except that he goes somewhere in a tie and comes home smelling like recycled air. He has never told me what he does not really. I have stopped asking. It is just a small thing, I say. I can get quotes if you want. I just need to know if the homeowner's insurance covers." My mother cuts me off with a look. A single glance that contains years of practice. "You live in that place almost rent-free," she says. "You should be grateful. Figure it out yourself. Rent-free." The words hit me like cold water. I pay $2,800 a month. I have paid over $200,000 in 7 years. I have paid enough to buy a small house outright in some parts of the country. But in this house, in this dining room, that money does not exist. It has been erased from the family ledger, rewritten as something else. Gratitude, obligation, debt. I can never repay, because the interest keeps compounding in ways nobody will explain. I look at my father. He is cutting another square of steak 8 chews swallow. He does not look at me. He does not say anything at all. "You are right," I hear myself say. "I will figure it out." Tiffany goes back to talking about her shoes. My mother goes back to nodding. The conversation flows around me like water around a stone, and I sit there in my worn-out flats and wonder when I became invisible. The clock in the kitchen ticks. The rain continues to fall, and somewhere in the walls of my beautiful condo downtown, a pipe is leaking drop by drop into a place I cannot see. 3 weeks later, the sun decides to show up for Tiffany's graduation party. This is Seattle's version of a miracle. 26 days of gray skies and relentless drizzle, and then on the exact Saturday my sister needs perfect weather, the clouds part like a curtain call. My mother has been saying it all morning. The universe is smiling on our girl. She says it like Tiffany personally negotiated with God. I arrive early to help set up. This is not a request but an expectation communicated through a text from my mother that read simply, "Be here by 10. Wear something nice, but not too nice." The second part was underlined in my mind, even though you cannot underline a text message. I understood what she meant. Look presentable, but do not outshine the guest of honor. Do not draw attention to yourself. Blend into the furniture. I chose a navy blue dress I bought 4 years ago for a coworker's wedding. It is the nicest thing I own, and even so the hem is starting to fray at the back where it catches on my heel when I walk. I ironed it this morning twice, trying to get out a crease that turned out to be permanent. The fabric has that slightly faded look that clothes get when they have been washed too many times. My shoes are the same black flats from the dinner 3 weeks ago. I polished them with a wet paper towel in the car. The backyard has been transformed into something from a magazine. White tents with scalloped edges, round tables draped in ivory linens, a string quartet setting up in the corner, actual human beings with actual instruments, not a Bluetooth speaker like at my graduation party, which was held in this same backyard with a folding table and a sheet cake from the grocery store. I count the chairs. 80. My parents have invited 80 people to celebrate Tiffany finishing a communications degree she will probably never use. My mother finds me standing by the caterer's van watching them unload trays of shrimp and something that looks like miniature beef Wellingtons. "There you are," she says. Her voice is bright performative, the voice she uses when she knows other people might be listening. "Go inside and start filling the ice buckets." The bartender is setting up on the patio. I nod and head toward the house. Behind me, I hear her greeting someone with an enthusiasm I have never once heard directed at me. "Oh, the Hendersons. So glad you could make it." The kitchen is chaos. Caterers move around each other in a choreography of efficiency, barking orders about temperatures and timing. I find the ice buckets stacked by the back door and start filling them from the industrial cooler someone has wheeled in. My hands go numb from the cold, but I keep scooping. This is my role. This is what I am here for. By noon, the backyard is full of people I half recognize, aunts and uncles I see once a year at Christmas, neighbors who watched me grow up but whose names I can never quite remember, friends of my parents who look at me with that particular expression, the one that says they are trying to place me in the family hierarchy and coming up short. I circulate with a bottle of champagne refilling glasses. This is also not a request. My mother handed me the bottle as soon as the first guests arrived and said, "Make yourself useful." So I make myself useful. I smile. I pour. I nod at conversations I am not part of. I am a ghost with a bottle moving through the party like furniture that happens to have legs. A woman in a cream-colored blazer stops me near the rose bushes. She is holding out her empty glass, not looking at my face the way people do when they are addressing the help. "Could I get a top-off, dear?" I pour. She glances at me for the first time and I see the calculation happen behind her eyes. The slight frown, the head tilt. "Wait," she says. "Are you new?" "I do not think I have seen you at the Bennetts before. I am their daughter," I say. "Chloe." The woman's face does something complicated. Embarrassment first, then confusion, then something else, something that looks almost like pity. "Oh," she says. "Oh, of course. I am sorry I did not." She trails off. The sentence has nowhere to go. She did not recognize me because I do not look like I belong here. I look like what I am the one who pours the drinks. "It is fine," I say. I smile because that is what you do. Enjoy the party. I move away before she can respond. The champagne bottle is almost empty, which gives me an excuse to go back inside. I need a minute. Just 1 minute away from all of this, away from the string quartet and the catered shrimp and the 80 chairs filled with people who have no idea who I am. The kitchen has cleared out. The caterers are outside now manning the carving station and the dessert table. I set down the empty bottle and lean against the counter, pressing my cold hands against my cheeks. The house is quiet in that strange way houses get when all the life has moved outside. I can hear the party through the walls, muffled laughter and clinking glasses. But in here there is only the hum of the refrigerator and my own breathing. I need more ice. The buckets by the bar are running low, and soon someone will notice and my mother will give me that look. The one that says I have failed at the one simple task I was given. The large cooler in the garage. That is where my father keeps the backup supply. I push off from the counter and head down the hallway past the family photos where my face appears less and less the closer they get to the present day. Past the bathroom no one uses. Past the linen closet that still smells like the lavender sachets my grandmother used to make before she died. My father's study is at the end of the hall. The door is closed, which is normal. He does not like people in his space. But as I walk past, I hear something that makes me stop. Laughter. My father's laughter, which is rare enough to be notable. And then my mother's voice, high and pleased. And then Tiffany's. They are all in there. The three of them together, while the party continues outside without them. While I pour champagne for strangers and get mistaken for the help. I should keep walking. I should get the ice and go back outside and do my job. That is what the smart part of me is saying, the part that has learned over 29 years not to ask questions, not to push, not to expect anything more than what is given. But the door is not closed all the way. There is a gap, maybe an inch, where the latch did not catch. And through that gap I can see a slice of the room. My father's desk, the corner of the leather couch, my mother's hand holding something that catches the light. A key. I do not mean to stop. I do not mean to listen. But my body has already made the decision, pressing itself against the wall, turning my head so my ear is closer to the gap. My father is speaking. "Graduation present for my princess," he says. His voice is warm, proud, dripping with an affection I have never heard him use when talking about me. The key to the condo downtown. My heart stops. Not metaphorically. I feel it pause in my chest, skip a beat, stutter like an engine that has run out of fuel. The condo downtown. My condo. The one I have been paying for every month for 7 years. The one I clean with my own hands, fix with my own money, love with my own heart. But Tiffany's voice says, and there is something in it that might be hesitation, might be the faintest flicker of conscience. Chloe is living there. She has been there forever. My mother laughs. It is a small laugh, dismissive, the kind you use when a child says something silly. Chloe is just house-sitting, she says. The words come through the gap like knives. 7 years she has been paying rent, which is basically her paying us back for raising her. Room and board. All those years we put a roof over her head and food on her plate. She owes us that much. I cannot breathe. The air has turned solid in my lungs, refusing to move. My hand finds the wall and presses flat against it, needing something solid, something real, something that will not dissolve under my fingers. My father speaks again. Next week, we tell her we are selling the place. Investment opportunity, market conditions, whatever. She will believe it because she always believes everything we say. Then we do a quiet transfer to Tiffany, and by the time Chloe figures out what happened, it will be too late to do anything about it. There is a pause. I imagine them in there, the three of them nodding along to this plan like they are discussing what to have for dinner. Like they are deciding which movie to watch. Like they are not talking about erasing 7 years of my life. "What if she makes a fuss?" Tiffany asks. My mother's voice goes hard. The warmth drains out of it like water from a bathtub. "She will not," she says. She never does. That girl has been a doormat her whole life. She will cry for a week and then find some little apartment somewhere and keep sending us Christmas cards like nothing happened. That is who she is. My father laughs again. The sound hits me like a physical blow. "Best investment we ever made," he says. "She paid off half the mortgage already. Free money for 7 years, and now we get the property back with all that equity. Plus whatever she spent fixing the place up. New appliances, fresh paint. She even redid the bathroom last year out of her own pocket. I did. I saved for 8 months to redo that bathroom. I picked out the tiles myself, spent 3 weekends installing them because I could not afford to hire someone. I thought I was investing in my future. I thought I was building something. It is all so perfect," my mother says. Her voice is dreamy, satisfied. Tiffany gets a beautiful home in the city, and we do not have to spend a penny. Chloe basically bought it for her. My hand slips from the wall. The ice tongs. I forgot I was still holding them, the metal ones I grabbed from the kitchen for the backup cooler. They hit the hardwood floor with a sound like breaking glass. Clatter and ring and echo bouncing off the walls of the hallway, impossibly loud in the sudden silence. For one terrible second, nothing moves. Then I hear my mother's voice, sharp, now alarmed. What was that? I cannot stay. I cannot face them, cannot look at their faces as they realize I heard everything. My body is moving before my mind catches up, feet carrying me down the hallway, through the kitchen, out the side door that leads to the driveway. The sun is blinding after the dim house. The noise of the party washes over me like a wave, laughter and music, and the clink of glasses, all of it meaningless now, all of it noise. My car is parked at the end of the driveway behind a Lexus that belongs to someone important. Martha. Faithful, broken, 12 years old. Martha, who has never once let me down. I do not remember unlocking the door. I do not remember getting inside. But suddenly, I am there in the driver's seat, hands on the wheel, staring straight ahead at nothing. The world looks different. Everything looks different. The trees lining the street, the houses with their perfect lawns, the blue sky that my mother said was the universe smiling on our girl. None of it makes sense anymore. None of it belongs to the reality I woke up in this morning. I open my mouth to scream. Nothing comes out. My throat has closed up, seized by something stronger than sound. I feel it building in my chest, all the years of swallowed words and bitten tongues, and yes, Dad and I will try harder, I promise. All of it pressing against my ribs, demanding release. My fist hits the steering wheel before I know I am moving. The horn honks a short, sharp bleat that startles me. I hit it again. My knuckles find the hard plastic center, the place where the airbag hides, and I feel something give. Not the wheel. Me. Something in me cracking open. I hit the wheel until my hand goes numb. Until I look down and see blood bright red against my pale skin welling up from the split knuckle of my right hand. The sight of it stops me. That red so vivid, so real. The only real thing in this car, in this driveway, in this entire, terrible day. I cradle my hand against my chest. The pain arrives slowly, distant at first, then sharper. I welcome it. I need it. It is proof that I am still here, still alive, still a person who can be hurt. Through the windshield, I watch a caterer walk past carrying an empty tray. Behind the house, the party continues. No one has come looking for me. No one has noticed I am gone. Why would they? I am the girl who pours the drinks. I am the doormat. I am the free money. I close my eyes and let the truth settle into my bones. 7 years. $200,000. Every spare penny, every overtime hour, every skipped vacation and second-hand dress and careful budget. I poured it all into that condo, into those walls, into the crack by the kitchen window that I thought was a scar that told a story. It does tell a story. Just not the one I thought. The key my father was holding, the one he gave to Tiffany like a crown. That key is in my purse. It has been on my keychain for 7 years. I unlock my front door with it every night when I come home from work. I lock it again when I leave in the morning. I thought it meant something. I thought it meant the condo was mine. But keys can be copied. Keys can be given away. Keys do not prove anything at all. The only thing that matters is the name on the deed. And my name was never there. I do not go home that night. I drive until the gas tank hits empty, then I pull into a station somewhere past Tacoma and fill it up with the emergency credit card I keep for situations exactly like this. The cashier looks at my face, at the dried blood on my knuckles, and does not ask any questions. I buy a bottle of water and a pack of tissues and sit in the parking lot until the sun goes down. My phone has 17 missed calls, 12 from my mother, 4 from my father, 1 from Tiffany. I do not listen to the voicemails. I know what they will say. Where are you? We need to talk. There has been a misunderstanding. Come home and we can explain. There is nothing to explain. I heard what I heard. I know what I know. I spend the night in a motel off the interstate, the kind with flickering neon signs and bedspreads that smell like industrial detergent. I pay cash. I do not sleep. I lie on top of the covers with my injured hand throbbing against my chest, and I stare at the water stain on the ceiling. And I think, this is what people do not understand about me. They see the quiet, the compliance, the way I fold myself into corners and let others take up space. They think it means I am weak. They think it means I do not notice things, do not remember things, do not calculate things in the dark parts of my mind where no one else can see. They are wrong. I have been noticing my whole life. I have been filing away every slight, every dismissal, every time my mother's eyes slid past me to land on Tiffany. I did not do anything with this information because I believed it was the price of being loved. I believed that if I was good enough, patient enough, invisible enough, eventually they would see me. Now I know they have always seen me. They just did not see a daughter. They saw an investment, a revenue stream, a convenient solution to their financial problems, wrapped in a body that could cook dinner and clean toilets and say thank you. By morning, the grief has crystallized into something harder, something colder, something that feels like a key turning in a lock. I drive back to Seattle. The first lawyer I call is too expensive. $300 just for an initial consultation, and I do not have $300 to spare. The second one does not call me back. The third one is on vacation. The fourth one listens to my story for 10 minutes and then tells me gently that I do not have a case. The fifth one is David Klein. His office is on the second floor of a building in Ballard above a Thai restaurant and next to a tattoo parlor. The waiting room has plastic chairs and magazines from 2 years ago and a ficus tree that is clearly fake. It is not the kind of place you would go if you had money. It is the kind of place you go when you have run out of options. I am here at 4:30 on a Tuesday afternoon because David Klein offers free 30-minute consultations, and because his website says he specializes in real estate disputes. I am here because I have spent 3 days researching Washington property law at the public library, because I have read everything I can find about verbal contracts and implied agreements and something called constructive trust that might be my only hope. The receptionist tells me David will see me now. I stand up, smooth my dress, and walk through the door she indicates. David Klein is about 40 with sharp features and the kind of thinness that suggests he forgets to eat when he is working. His office is small but organized files stacked in neat towers, a single-framed diploma on the wall. He looks up when I enter and gestures to the chair across from his desk. "Miss Bennett," he says. He does not smile. "Have a seat." I sit. I set my folder on my lap. It contains 7 years of bank statements, every receipt I could find, screenshots of every text message between me and my parents that mentions the condo. I have organized it chronologically, highlighted the relevant parts, created a summary document on the first page. I have done everything I can think of to make his job easier. David opens a yellow legal pad and picks up a pen. "Tell me what happened," he says. I tell him. Not the emotional version, not the version with the crying and the steering wheel and the motel off the interstate. The facts, the dates, the amounts. I speak for exactly 7 minutes because I have practiced this, have timed myself in the bathroom mirror, have stripped away everything that does not matter until only the skeleton remains. When I finish, David is quiet for a long moment. He looks at the folder in my lap, then at my face, then at the legal pad where he has written nothing at all. "Do you have a written contract?" he asks. "Anything signed by both parties?" "Any documentation of the original agreement?" I shake my head. It was verbal. They told me the condo was mine, that I would pay the mortgage, and when it was paid off, they would transfer the title. They were my parents. I believed them. David sets down his pen. "Miss Bennett," he says. "Washington State follows the statute of frauds. Any contract involving real property must be in writing to be enforceable. Without a written agreement, you have nothing to bring to court." I expected this. I prepared for this. I have 7 years of bank statements, I say. I open the folder and spread the pages across his desk, a paper trail that stretches from my first payment at 22 to the most recent one 3 weeks ago. Every month, every transfer, every penny I sent to an account with my father's name on it. David looks at the statements. He picks one up, examines it, sets it down. "This is evidence of payment," he says. "It is not evidence of an agreement to transfer property." I know, I say. But there is a legal doctrine. Constructive trust. When one party is unjustly enriched at the expense of another, when there is a confidential relationship that has been abused, the court can impose a trust on the property even without a written agreement. David looks at me differently now. The boredom in his eyes has been replaced by something sharper. Interest, maybe, or respect. "You have been doing your homework," he says. I do not respond. I wait. He leans back in his chair and steeples his fingers. Constructive trust is a valid theory, he says. You have the payments. You have the confidential relationship, the family connection that created a duty of trust. And you have evidence of their intent to defraud you. If we can prove they always plan to take the property back, that strengthens your case significantly. So we can win, I say. David holds up a hand. We might be able to win, he says. Emphasis on might. This would be a civil suit. It would go to trial. The other side would hire lawyers, delay file motions, drag this out as long as possible. Best case scenario, we are looking at 18 to 24 months of litigation. Worst case, 3 to 4 years. I absorb this. 2 years of my life minimum. 2 years of fighting in courtrooms while my parents live in their house, and Tiffany decorates my condo with whatever trendy furniture she finds on Instagram. And the cost, I say. David sighs. Retainer alone would be $15,000 to $20,000. Total fees by the time we get to trial, $50,000 minimum. Could be more if they decide to play hardball. $50,000. I have $400 in my checking account and a credit card with a $2,000 limit that is almost maxed out. I have no savings because every spare penny has gone to the mortgage on a home I do not own. I have nothing. David reads this on my face. You do not have the money, he says. It is not a question. No, I say. I do not have the money. The silence stretches between us. Outside the window, I can hear traffic on the street below, the distant clatter of the Thai restaurant setting up for the dinner rush. Normal sounds from a normal world that suddenly feels very far away. I did not come here expecting to win, I say. I came here to understand my options. David nods slowly. He picks up his pen again, turns it over in his fingers. Then he sets it down and looks at me with an expression I cannot quite read. What is your father's name? He asks. Kevin Bennett, I say. Something changes in David's face. A flicker of recognition. A hardening around the eyes. Kevin Bennett, he repeats. He says it like he is tasting something bitter. Lives in Shoreline, mid-50s, used to work in commercial real estate. I nod, confused. You know him? David stands up abruptly and walks to the window. He stands with his back to me, looking out at the street below. I know him, he says. His voice is different now, colder. I know exactly what kind of man he is. The silence stretches. I wait. 7 years ago, David says my mother sold her house. She was 72, widowed, moving into assisted living. She needed money for her care, and the house was all she had. He turns around to face me. A buyer approached her. Charming man. Promised to close, quickly pay cash, make everything easy. He told her he would give her a fair price. He told her he would take care of everything. She was old and tired, and she just wanted it to be over, so she trusted him. I feel something cold settling in my stomach. He convinced her to sign papers she did not understand. David continues. By the time I found out what had happened, she had sold her house for 40% of its value. The charming man walked away with over $200,000 in equity that should have paid for her care. He looks at me directly. That charming man was Kevin Bennett. I open my mouth to speak, but no words come out. My mother spent her last 3 years in a Medicaid facility, David says. Shared room. Institutional food. She deserved better. She worked her entire life. She raised 4 children. She deserved to spend her final years somewhere decent. But Kevin Bennett took that from her, and there was nothing I could do about it. The paperwork was technically legal. She signed voluntarily. No fraud, no coercion, just a predator taking advantage of an old woman who trusted too easily. He walks back to his desk and sits down. I have been waiting 7 years for a chance to make him pay, he says. 7 years of watching him do this to other people, knowing I could not touch him. And now you walk into my office with bank statements and a story that sounds exactly like what he did to my mother. He leans forward. There is another option, he says. A riskier option. One that does not involve the courts at all. I lean forward too. Tell me. David looks at me for a long moment as if he is making a decision. Then he speaks. Your father signed a mortgage agreement. His name is on the deed. If the title were to be legally transferred to you, and if that transfer happened voluntarily, there would be nothing illegal about it. He is the owner. He can sell or transfer his property to anyone he wants. He would never agree to that, I say. David smiles. It is not a warm smile. It is the smile of a man who has been carrying anger for a long time and finally sees a way to use it. People agree to things all the time without understanding what they are agreeing to, he says. Happens in this business more often than you would think. Someone comes in, wants to refinance their mortgage, lower their interest rate. They sign a stack of papers without reading them because they trust the person who put the papers in front of them. They do not realize that one of those papers is a quitclaim deed until much later. I stare at him. Are you suggesting what I think you are suggesting? David holds up both hands. I am not suggesting anything he says. I am a lawyer. I cannot advise you to commit fraud. That would be illegal and unethical, and I would lose my license. He pauses. But I am also a son whose mother died in a place she should never have been because a man like your father took advantage of her. And if someone were to do to Kevin Bennett what he has spent his life doing to others, I would not lose any sleep over it. He looks at me with those sharp eyes. What I can tell you is this. If you were to find someone who could help you prepare certain documents, if those documents were to end up in a stack of legitimate refinancing paperwork, and if your father were to sign those documents of his own free will without being coerced or misled about the nature of the transaction, well, that would be a complicated situation, legally speaking. But he would be misled, I say. He would think he was signing something else. David shrugs. People are responsible for reading what they sign, he says. That is basic contract law. If a grown man puts his signature on a document without reading it first, that is his problem. The document is still valid. The transfer is still legal. And unless he can prove he was under duress or that someone held a gun to his head, there is not much he can do about it after the fact. My mind is racing now. I am thinking about my father, about the way he skims through anything longer than a paragraph about the stack of mail he never opens that piles up on his desk until my mother throws it away. I am thinking about his greed, his impatience, his absolute conviction that he is smarter than everyone else in the room. I am thinking about the way he looked at Tiffany when he gave her that key. The pride in his voice. The warmth. I am thinking about 29 years of cold. What would I need I say? My voice sounds strange to me. Steady. Calm. Like it belongs to someone else. David pulls open a drawer and takes out a business card. This is a colleague of mine, he says. Sarah Chen. She handles real estate closings. Notary public, very discreet. If you were to bring her certain documents, she might be able to help you with the paperwork. He slides the card across the desk. The key to this kind of thing, he says, is giving the mark something he wants. Something that makes him eager to sign without looking too closely. If your father thinks he is getting a good deal, he will not ask questions. That is just human nature. I take the card. The name on it is Sarah Chen with a phone number and an address in Bellevue. And you, I say. What is your role in this? David's expression does not change. Officially, nothing. I am your lawyer. I gave you legal advice about your options in a real estate dispute. What you do with that advice is your business. He pauses. Unofficially, I have a notary stamp and a very good memory for the kind of documents banks use in refinancing agreements. And I have been waiting 7 years for a chance to look Kevin Bennett in the eye while he signs away something he values. I understand then. David Klein is not just offering me help. He is offering me a partnership. He has his own reasons for wanting my father to fall, and those reasons run as deep as mine. One more thing, David says. He is looking at me with those sharp eyes, seeing more than I want him to see. If you decide to do this, you have to commit. No hesitation, no guilt, no changing your mind halfway through. The moment you show weakness, the whole thing falls apart. I understand, I say. I am not sure you do, he says. You seem like a nice person, Miss Bennett. Nice people have a hard time with this kind of thing. They start feeling bad for the other side. They start second-guessing themselves. He leans forward. So, let me ask you a question. What did your father do to you? What did he do that makes you willing to sit in my office and discuss committing what could technically be considered fraud? I think about the party, the key, the way my mother laughed when she called me a doormat. I think about 29 years of being invisible. I think about $200,000. He stole my life, I say. And he was going to do it again. This time, I am just taking it back. David nods slowly. Good, he says. Hold on to that. You are going to need it. I leave his office with the business card in my pocket and something new in my chest. It is not hope exactly. It is more like a door opening a path appearing where before there was only a wall. For the first time since the party, I do not feel helpless. I do not feel like a victim. I feel like a hunter. The next 3 days, I do not go to work. I call in sick, which I have not done in 4 years, and I spend every waking hour in my condo researching. The internet is full of information about refinancing, about the documents involved, about the process from application to closing. I take notes, I make lists, I build a picture in my mind of exactly how this is going to work. My father's psychology is not complicated. He wants money. He wants it quickly. He wants it without having to do any work. He also hates details. Hates fine print. Hates anything that requires sustained attention. I have watched him sign contracts without reading them, wave away explanations. With an impatient hand assume that his signature is just a formality before he gets what he wants. This is his weakness. This is my way in. I call Sarah Chen on a Thursday afternoon. Her voice is professional neutral, giving nothing away. David Klein referred me, I say. There is a pause. I see, she says. Why do not you come in tomorrow? I have an opening at 2. Her office is in a strip mall in Bellevue between a dry cleaner and a nail salon. She is younger than I expected, maybe 35, with black hair pulled back in a severe ponytail and reading glasses perched on her nose. I explain what I need. I show her the documents I have prepared, the fake refinance package, the real quitclaim deed that will transfer the property to me. She listens without interrupting, flipping through pages, making occasional notes in the margins. When I finish, she looks up at me. This is very thorough, she says. You have done your research. I have had time to think, I say. She sets down the papers. I can help you with the notarization, she says. I can prepare the deed, get the paperwork in order. But I need you to understand something. Once this is done, it cannot be undone. Your father will have legal recourse. He can sue you. He can try to have the transfer invalidated. I know, I say. And you are prepared for that. I think about the party, the key, the laughter through the door. Yes, I say. I am prepared. Sarah nods. Then let us get started, she says. We work together for 3 hours. She shows me exactly where the quitclaim deed needs to go in the stack, which papers should be on top to distract from it, how to position the signature lines so they look identical to the legitimate documents. She gives me a checklist of things to say, phrases that will make the whole process seem routine. By the time I leave her office, I have everything I need. A folder full of official-looking paperwork. A notary public who will be available on short notice. A plan that depends on one thing and one thing only. My father's greed. I create a folder on my laptop called Refinance Proposal. Inside it, I build a presentation. Charts showing current interest rates. Projections of monthly savings. A breakdown of how much money my father would keep if he lowered the mortgage rate from 5% to 2.5%. $1,000 a month. $12,000 a year. Over the remaining life of the loan, a savings of more than $100,000. These numbers are real. The refinance rates are real. Everything in this presentation is legitimate except for one thing. I am not going to refinance the mortgage. I am going to transfer the property. But my father will not know that. My father will see the big numbers and the impressive charts, and he will think he has found another way to profit from my existence. He will think he is winning. That is the beautiful part. He will sign away his property because he is too greedy to read the paperwork. The drive back to Seattle takes an hour. I spend it rehearsing, running through scenarios in my head. What if he reads the documents? What if my mother asks questions? What if Tiffany is there and wants to know why I am being so nice? I have answers for all of it. I have practiced them in the mirror, in the car, in the shower where no one can hear me. I have become someone else. Someone who can smile while lying, who can hug the people who betrayed her and pretend everything is fine. David was right. I have to commit. No hesitation. No guilt. I pull into the parking garage of my building and sit in the car for a long moment. The concrete walls feel like protection. The dim light feels like safety. This place, this condo, these walls that I have loved for 7 years, they were never really mine, but they will be. I take out my phone and dial my father's number. It rings 3 times before he picks up. "Chloe," he says. His voice is wary. "Where the hell have you been? Your mother has been worried sick." I take a breath. I put on the mask. "Hi, Dad," I say. "I am sorry I disappeared. I just needed some time to think about things." He grunts. That is his version of acceptance. "Listen," I say. "I found something that might interest you." A contact of mine at a bank mentioned they are offering a special refinance program. Internal only, not advertised to the public. She could get us in, but we would have to move fast. Silence on the other end. I can almost hear him calculating. "Refinance," he says. "What kind of rates?" 2.5%, I say. "Down from 5. You would save about $1,000 a month. I have all the paperwork ready. We just need to sign and get it notarized." "1,000 a month," he repeats. I hear the hunger in his voice. The greed I knew would be there. "That is 12 grand a year. More than that over the life of the loan," I say. "I can explain it all when I see you." "Are you free this weekend, Sunday?" he says. "Come to the house. Bring the paperwork." "Actually," I say, keeping my voice casual. "The notary has an opening on Friday. The rate lock expires at the end of the month, so sooner is better. Can you and Mom come to Bellevue? I will text you the address." A pause. I can hear him weighing the inconvenience against the money. "Fine," he says. "Friday." "What time?" 2 o'clock, I say. "Thanks, Dad." I hang up and stare at my phone. My hands are shaking, but my voice was steady. My voice was perfect. I am going to do this. I am going to walk into that office and smile at the people who stole from me, and I am going to take back what is mine. And when it is over, when the papers are signed and the deed is transferred and my name is finally where it should have been all along, I am going to disappear. I am going to vanish so completely that they will never find me. They taught me how to be invisible. Now I am going to use it against them. Sunday arrives wrapped in the kind of gray drizzle that Seattle wears like a second skin. I stand in front of my bathroom mirror for 20 minutes practicing. The smile has to be right. Not too bright, not too forced. It has to look like the smile of someone who has calmed down, who has accepted the situation, who wants to make peace with her family. It has to look like the smile of the old Chloe, the one who believed and trusted and forgave. I try different versions. The apologetic smile, eyes slightly downcast. The hopeful smile, corners of the mouth lifted just enough to suggest optimism. The grateful smile, the one I used to wear every time my father acknowledged my existence. That last one is the hardest. My face does not want to make that shape anymore. The muscles have forgotten how. I settle on something in between. Soft, subdued. The face of a daughter who has spent a week realizing how much she needs her family, how lost she would be without them. The face of someone who is ready to come home. I pack a small overnight bag. Just the essentials. Toothbrush, change of clothes, the charger for my phone. I also pack a flash drive small enough to hide in my palm, tucked into the inside pocket of my purse where no one will think to look. The gifts are on my kitchen counter. A bottle of wine for my father. Something expensive that I found at the specialty store downtown. A scented candle for my mother, the lavender one she mentioned wanting months ago. A gift card for Tiffany because I do not know what else to give someone who already has everything. These are not peace offerings. They are props, stage dressing for the performance I am about to give. I load everything into Martha and drive toward the house where I grew up, rehearsing my lines the whole way. The driveway is empty except for my father's truck and my mother's sedan. Tiffany's car is gone, which means she is out somewhere, probably spending more of my parents' money on things she does not need. This is good. Fewer witnesses, fewer variables. I park behind my mother's car and sit for a moment, gathering myself. Through the living room window, I can see the blue glow of the television. Nothing has changed. Nothing ever changes here. I get out, grab the gift bag, and walk to the front door. My mother opens it before I can knock. Her face goes through several expressions in rapid succession. Surprise, relief, something that might be guilt if she were capable of feeling it. Then she settles on the one I expected. Cautious welcome. The look of someone who is not sure yet if the storm has passed. "Chloe," she says. "You came." I hold out the gift bag. "I brought some things," I say. "I wanted to apologize for disappearing like that. I know I worried you." My mother takes the bag and peers inside. She pulls out the candle and her face softens. This is real emotion, or as close to real as she gets. She has always loved gifts. She has always loved being given things. Lavender, she says. How did you remember? You mentioned it at Christmas, I say. I made a mental note. This is a lie. She mentioned it at Easter, and she mentioned it because she was complaining that I had not gotten her anything nice enough. But the detail does not matter. What matters is that she thinks I was listening, that I was paying attention, that I care. She steps aside to let me in. Your father is in the living room, she says. He has been waiting for you. The house smells the same, cinnamon and stale beer and something underneath that I have never been able to identify. Comfort and suffocation mixed together in equal measure. I walk through the foyer past the family photos that chart my gradual disappearance from the frame and into the living room. My father is in his recliner. The football game is on sound-muted players running across the screen in silent pursuit of something that does not matter. He does not get up when I enter, but he does look at me. His eyes are assessing, calculating, trying to figure out what angle I am playing. Hey, Dad, I say. He grunts. I sit down on the couch, the same spot where Tiffany usually sits when she is here. The cushion is softer than I remember, broken in by years of someone else's weight. I'm sorry I ran off at the party, I say. I found out something that upset me and I did not handle it well. My father's expression does not change. What did you find out, he says. I pause. I have rehearsed this part too, but it still feels like walking on ice. One wrong word and I fall through. I overheard you talking about the condo, I say. About giving it to Tiffany. Silence. My mother has come into the room and is standing by the doorway, the gift bag still in her hands. She looks at my father. He looks at me. We were going to tell you, my mother says. Her voice is too quick, too defensive. We just had not found the right time. I know, I say. I know you were. And I have had some time to think about it, and I realize I was being selfish. The condo is yours. You paid for it. You have every right to do whatever you want with it. The words taste like ash in my mouth. Every syllable is a lie wrapped in a truth wrapped in another lie. But I say them with conviction. I say them like I mean them. And I watch my parents' faces shift as they process this unexpected surrender. My father leans forward slightly. You are okay with it, he says. There is suspicion in his voice, but also something else. Hope. The hope of a man who thought he was going to have to fight and is now realizing he might get what he wants without any effort at all. I am not okay with it, I say. I am hurt. I thought that place was mine, and finding out it is not was devastating. But I understand. You are my parents. You have sacrificed so much for me over the years. If you need the property for Tiffany, then I will find somewhere else to live. My mother's hand goes to her chest, a gesture of relief, of gratitude, of absolution. She thinks I have forgiven her. She thinks this is over. Oh, honey, she says. That is so mature of you. We knew you would understand eventually. I smile the smile I practiced in the mirror. I just need a little time to find a new place, I say. Maybe a month or two. And I wanted to talk to you about one other thing, Dad, something that could actually benefit all of us. My father's eyes sharpen. The word benefit has triggered something in him, some predatory instinct that never sleeps. What kind of thing, he says. I pull out my phone and open the folder of charts I prepared. A contact of mine works at Pacific Northwest Federal, I say. She mentioned they are doing an internal refinance program, not advertised to the public, only for people with connections. She said she could get us in, but the window closes at the end of the month. I hand him the phone. He takes it and scrolls through the charts, the projections, the big numbers I designed specifically to appeal to his greed. 2.5%, he reads aloud. Down from 5. That is right, I say. Based on the remaining balance on the mortgage, you would save about $1,000 a month, over $12,000 a year. His eyes flicker. I can almost see the calculations happening behind them, the mental math of a man who sees money the way other people see air. Essential, necessary, the only thing worth caring about. What is the catch, he says. No catch, I say. Just paperwork. My contact can expedite the process, but we would need to get everything signed and notarized by Friday. After that, the rate goes back up. My father looks at my mother. She shrugs the way she always does when money is involved, deferring to his judgment, trusting him to make the right decision. He looks back at me. "What kind of paperwork?" he says. "Standard refinance documents," I say. "New loan agreement, title verification, a few other things. I can handle all of it. You and Mom would just need to come to the closing appointment and sign." My father is quiet for a long moment. I watch him think, watch him weigh the risk against the reward. He does not trust me completely, I can see that. But his greed is stronger than his suspicion. His greed always wins. "Friday," he says. "Where I have a notary in Bellevue," I say. "Sarah Chen. She has done work for the bank before. Very professional, very fast. I can set up an appointment for 2:00. He nods slowly. "Do it," he says. And he hands me back my phone with a look that almost resembles approval. "First smart thing you have done in years." I take the phone and slip it into my pocket. My heart is hammering so hard, I am certain he can hear it, but my face stays calm. My voice stays steady. "Thank you, Dad," I say. "I really think this is going to work out for everyone." He grunts again and turns back to the television. The conversation is over. I have been dismissed, but I have also gotten exactly what I came for. Dinner is quiet. My mother makes pot roast, the same pot roast she has been making every Sunday for as long as I can remember. The meat is dry and the vegetables are overcooked and nobody comments on it because nobody expects anything different. Tiffany comes home halfway through the meal, shopping bags hanging from both arms, her face flushed with the particular joy of spending money that is not hers. She stops short when she sees me at the table. "Oh," she says. "You are here." I smile at her. "I came to apologize," I say, "for disappearing at your party. That was wrong of me." Tiffany looks at our parents, then back at me. She is trying to figure out if this is a trap, if there is some angle she is missing. But she does not have the capacity for sustained suspicion. It requires too much effort, whatever she says. She drops into the chair across from me and starts loading her plate. "Mom, is there any of the good bread left?" The rest of dinner passes in a blur of small talk and chewing sounds. I contribute just enough to seem normal. I laugh at my father's jokes. I compliment my mother's cooking. I ask Tiffany about her plans now that she has graduated. I am the perfect daughter, the perfect sister, the perfect liar. By 9:00, everyone is tired. My father has retreated to his study to watch something on his computer. My mother is in her usual spot on the couch, eyes glazed over from 2 glasses of wine. Tiffany has disappeared into her room, probably to take pictures of her new purchases for social media. I stand up and stretch. I should probably head home, I say. "Long drive." My mother looks up. "You could stay," she says. "Your old room is still made up. This is what I have been waiting for. This is the opening I need." "Are you sure?" I say. "I do not want to impose." "Do not be silly," she says. "You are family." The word hits me like a slap, but I do not let it show. I just smile and nod and say thank you. And I go upstairs to the room where I grew up, the room that still has my high school posters on the walls and my old books on the shelves, and I sit on the edge of the bed and wait. The house goes quiet around 11. I hear my parents' bedroom door close, hear the muffled sound of my father's snoring begin maybe 20 minutes later. Tiffany's light goes out at midnight. She has always kept late hours, but she has also always slept like the dead once she finally crashes. I wait another hour just to be safe. At 1:15 in the morning, I slip out of bed. I am still wearing my clothes from dinner. I did not change because I knew I would not be sleeping. I move silently across the carpet in my socks, avoiding the floorboard by the closet that has creaked since I was 12 years old. The hallway is dark except for the faint glow of a nightlight near the bathroom. I know this house in the dark. I know every corner, every shadow, every place where the floor gives underfoot. I have walked these halls 1,000 times, but never like this, never with this purpose. My father's study is at the end of the hall. The door is closed but not locked. My father does not believe in locks inside the house. He thinks they are a sign of weakness, of having something to hide. The irony of this is not lost on me. I turn the handle, slowly applying pressure in degrees, listening for the click that means the latch has released. It comes soft as a whisper, and the door swings open. The study smells like cigars and old paper. Moonlight comes through the window, casting silver rectangles across the desk where my father conducts his business. His computer is there sleeping, but not off. The monitor shows a black screen with a small power light glowing red. I close the door behind me and stand very still, letting my eyes adjust. The desk is cluttered with papers, receipts, envelopes from banks and credit card companies. My father keeps everything, but he organizes nothing. It is one of his many contradictions. He hoards information without ever looking at it, stockpiles documents without reading them. He believes that having the paper is the same as knowing what is on it. I move to the desk and wake the computer. The screen flickers to life, showing a password prompt. A small box in the center of the monitor cursor, blinking patiently. I expected this. What I also expected, because I know my father, is that the password would not be far away. He is 55 years old and he grew up in a world without computers. He does not trust his memory to hold something as important as a password. He writes it down. He always writes it down. I lift the keyboard. There it is. A sticky note yellowed with age, the handwriting cramped and barely legible. The password is his name, followed by the year he was born. 1969. Typical. Predictable. The kind of password security experts warn against, the kind that takes less than 5 seconds to guess if you know anything about the person. I type it in. The screen unlocks. The desktop is a mess of folders and shortcuts and files with names that make no sense. House docs, taxes 2019, MISC, insurance. I do not have time to go through everything. I need to be strategic. I pull the flash drive from my pocket and plug it into the USB port. Then I start copying. The financial folder first. Bank statements, investment accounts, anything that might tell me how much money my father actually has. Then the folder labeled House Docs, which probably contains the title and mortgage information for the condo. Then taxes, going back as many years as the folder contains. The progress bar crawls across the screen. 15%, 30, 45. While I wait, I scan the other folders. Most of them are exactly what they claim to be. Insurance policies, receipts, the kind of paperwork that accumulates over a lifetime of bureaucratic existence. But one folder catches my eye. It is nested inside a folder called Old Stuff, which is itself inside a folder called Archives, the kind of buried location that suggests something hidden, something that was not meant to be found. The folder is named Julian, followed by 1995. I do not recognize the name. Julian. I do not know any Julians. I have never heard my parents mention anyone by that name. I click on it. Inside are files, documents, scanned images of letters and emails, hundreds of them organized by year stretching back 3 decades. My curiosity overcomes my caution. I open the earliest folder labeled 1995. The first email is dated March of that year, 6 months before I was born. The sender is not Kevin. It is Linda, my mother. The recipient is Julian Moore. I read the first line and something cold settles into my stomach. Julian, I cannot stop thinking about you, about us, about what we have been doing. I know it is wrong. I know I am married. But when I am with you, I feel like I am finally alive, like I am finally the person I was meant to be. I scroll down. There is a response dated 2 days later. Linda, I feel the same. God help me, I feel the same. Every moment we are apart, I am counting the hours until I can see you again. I know this is dangerous. I know Kevin cannot find out. But I love you. I have loved you since the moment I saw you at that conference in Portland. Please, tell me you feel the same. My mother's reply is brief. I feel the same, but we have to be careful. He would destroy us both. I sit in the dark office, the glow of the monitor painting my face blue, and I read email after email. A love affair conducted in secret, hidden in inboxes and deleted histories. My mother and a man named Julian meeting in hotel rooms and borrowed apartments, stealing hours together while my father worked late or traveled for business. The emails are passionate, desperate, full of longing and guilt and the particular madness that comes with forbidden love. My mother sounds different in these messages. Alive, electric, nothing like the hollow woman who sits on the couch every night and watches other people live their lives on television. And then, in August of 1995, everything changes. Julian. I took the test this morning. It is positive. My heart stops. I am pregnant. I read the words again, and again, and again. I am pregnant. My mother was pregnant in August of 1995. I was born in September of 1995. The math is not difficult. The conclusion is not complicated. Julian's response is immediate, desperate. Linda, please, do not do this alone. Leave him. Come with me. We can raise this child together. We can be a family. I have enough money saved. I can take care of you both. Please, give me a chance to be a father. My mother's reply takes 3 days. I cannot leave him. You do not understand what he is like. The things he has said he would do if I ever tried to go. He would destroy me. He would take everything. He would make sure I never saw the baby again. She pauses. The email continues. I have decided. I am going to tell him it is his. He has been talking about having children for years. He will believe me. He will never know the truth. And you, Julian, you have to disappear. You have to let me go. It is the only way to keep us all safe. Julian's response is a single word. No. But then the emails stop. For months, nothing. A gap in the correspondence that stretches from August to November. And then, in November, a new thread begins. But this one is not between Linda and Julian. This one is between Kevin and Julian. I know what you did. I stare at the screen. My father's voice, even in text, is unmistakable. Cold, controlled, deadly. I know what you did. I have the emails. I have proof. You think you can sleep with my wife and walk away. You think there are no consequences. Julian's response is panicked, desperate. Kevin, please. It was a mistake. It is over. Linda and I ended it months ago. I will do anything you want. Just please do not hurt her. My father's reply is 3 words. She is pregnant. And then below that, a single sentence that changes everything I thought I knew about my life. I know the baby is not mine. The words blur in front of me. I blink and my vision clears and I read them again. I know the baby is not mine. The baby. Me. I am the baby. I am not Kevin Bennett's daughter. I have never been Kevin Bennett's daughter. I am the product of an affair. A secret. A lie that has been maintained for 29 years. I keep reading. I cannot stop. The emails continue, and with each one the picture becomes clearer and darker, and so much worse than I ever imagined. Here is how this is going to work, Kevin writes. The baby is mine, legally on paper in every way that matters. I will raise her. I will give her my name. And you are going to disappear. You are never going to contact Linda again. You are never going to try to see the child. Julian's response is desperate. And if I do not agree, Kevin's reply is long, detailed, full of threats that read like promises. Then I go public. I tell everyone what Linda did. I tell her family, her friends, her co-workers. I tell the child when she is old enough to understand that her mother is a whore and her real father is a coward who abandons his responsibilities. I have connections. I have resources. I will make your life a living hell. I will destroy everything you have ever built. And when I am done with you, I will start on Linda. A pause. Then Kevin continues. Or, you can pay me. $50,000 to start. A down payment on my silence. You give me the money, and I keep your secret. You give me the money, and I raise the child as my own. You give me the money, and everyone gets to pretend this never happened. I sit in the dark office, and I feel something shift inside me. Something fundamental. Something that will never shift back. Kevin Bennett is not my father. He has never been my father. He is my captor. My jailer. The man who discovered my mother's secret and turned it into a business opportunity. The emails continue. Julian agrees to pay. Of course he agrees to pay. What choice does he have? He sends the money, $50,000, everything he has saved, and Kevin accepts it and asks for more. The demands escalate over the years. 50,000 becomes 75. 75 becomes 100. Every few years, Kevin raises the price and Julian pays because the alternative is worse. Because the alternative means losing any hope of ever knowing his daughter. I scroll through decades of transactions. Julian selling his car to make a payment. Julian taking out loans. Julian working 3 jobs to scrape together the money Kevin demanded. All of it documented, all of it, organized, all of it saved on my father's computer like a trophy collection. The progress bar on my flash drive shows 100%. Everything has been copied. But I am not done. I copy the Julian folder too. Every file, every email, every record of every transaction. And then I sit in the dark surrounded by my father's secrets, and I try to understand what I have just learned. I am not Chloe Bennett. I have never been Chloe Bennett. I am the daughter of Julian Moore, a man I have never met, a man who has spent 30 years paying for the crime of loving my mother. And Kevin Bennett, the man I called Dad for my entire life, has been selling pieces of me to my real father. Photos. Updates. The right to watch from a distance while I grew up in a house where I was never wanted. I have been a hostage my entire life, a commodity, a source of revenue disguised as a daughter. I close the folder and sit in the darkness for a long moment, breathing slowly, letting the new reality settle into my bones. I came here to get my condo back. That was the plan. That was the revenge I had designed, the justice I thought I deserved. But this changes everything. This is not about a piece of property anymore. This is not about $200,000 or a quitclaim deed or getting even with the people who stole from me. This is about 29 years of lies. This is about a father I never knew and a family that was never mine. This is about a man named Julian Moore, who loved me enough to bankrupt himself, and another man named Kevin Bennett who never loved me at all. I eject the flash drive and slip it back into my pocket. I close all the windows, put the computer back to sleep, and replace the keyboard exactly as I found it. Then I stand in the dark for a long moment, listening to the house around me. My mother sleeping in her bed, trapped in a marriage she was too afraid to leave. Tiffany in her room dreaming of things she did not earn. And Kevin snoring in his recliner where he fell asleep watching television, completely unaware that his empire is about to crumble. I walk out of the study and close the door behind me. I climb the stairs to my childhood bedroom and lie down on the bed where I used to dream about growing up and getting out and making something of myself. Tomorrow I will smile at breakfast. Tomorrow I will confirm the appointment at the notary's office. Tomorrow I will continue to play the part of the obedient daughter, the grateful child, the doormat who has learned her place. But inside, where no one can see, I am already gone. I am not Chloe Bennett anymore. I am not sure who I am, but I know one thing. Kevin Bennett is going to pay for what he has done. Not just with the condo, not just with money, with everything. I do not sleep. The hours pass in a kind of fever dream, my body lying still on the childhood bed, while my mind races through corridors I never knew existed. Every time I close my eyes, I see the emails. The words burn behind my eyelids like after images from staring at the sun. My daughter. Real father. 50,000 more. The flash drive is in my pocket. I can feel it pressing against my thigh, a small rectangle of plastic that contains the entire history of my family's destruction. I want to pull it out, plug it into my phone, read everything again. I want to make sure I did not imagine it. I want to make sure this is real. But I do not move. I lie in the dark and I listen to the house settle around me, the creaks and groans of a structure that has been standing for 40 years, holding secrets in its walls like bones in a grave. At some point, the sky begins to lighten. Gray Seattle dawn creeping through the curtains, painting the room in shades of ash. I watch the light move across the ceiling and I think about Julian Moore. I think about a man I have never met paying money to look at photographs of me. I think about what it must have felt like to watch your daughter grow up from the other side of a transaction. I think about Kevin Bennett sitting at his desk counting the deposits, deciding how much my existence was worth. Breakfast is at 8. I hear my mother moving around downstairs, the familiar sounds of pans and running water and the coffee maker gurgling to life. I force myself to get up to wash my face, to look in the mirror and find something that resembles a human being. The woman staring back at me is a stranger. Same brown hair, same brown eyes, same face I have worn for 29 years. But there is something different now, something hollow, like the inside has been scooped out and replaced with something colder. I think about my eyes. Brown eyes. My mother has blue eyes. Kevin has green eyes. I never thought about this before. I never questioned why I looked nothing like either of them, why my face seemed to belong to some other family entirely. Now I know whose eyes I have. I go downstairs. "Good morning, sweetheart," my mother says. She is standing at the stove flipping pancakes. The domestic goddess, the perfect wife, the woman who slept with another man and let her husband turn the result into a business opportunity. "Morning," I say. My voice sounds normal. I am surprised by this. I expected it to crack, to betray me, to give away the earthquake happening inside my chest. But it comes out smooth and easy, the voice of a daughter who has nothing to hide. My father is already at the table reading something on his phone. He does not look up when I enter. This is normal. This is exactly how every morning of my childhood went. I stopped expecting acknowledgement years ago. I pour myself a cup of coffee and sit down across from him. The liquid is bitter and too hot, but I drink it anyway. I need something to do with my hands. "Sleep well?" my mother asks. She sets a plate of pancakes in front of me. Golden brown, perfectly round, the kind of pancakes that belong in a commercial. "I slept fine," I say. I look at her while she moves around the kitchen. 23 years old when the affair started. That is what the email said. She would have been young, probably still figuring out who she was, trapped in a marriage to a man she was already afraid of. I try to imagine her at that age, full of fire and longing, desperate enough to risk everything for a few stolen moments with someone who made her feel alive. I cannot picture it. The woman in front of me is a ghost. Whatever spark she once had, Kevin extinguished it long ago. Tiffany comes down around 8:30, still in her pajamas, her hair a tangled mess. She takes one look at the pancakes and wrinkles her nose. "Mom, I told you I am doing keto. Do we have any eggs?" The morning continues. My mother makes eggs for Tiffany. My father finishes his breakfast in silence and retreats to his study. I eat my pancakes without tasting them, nodding along to my mother's chatter about the neighbors and the weather and some show she watched last night. At 9 o'clock, I announce that I need to run some errands before Friday. "Are you sure you cannot stay longer?" my mother asks. Her voice has that particular warmth that I used to crave, the warmth of a mother who seems to genuinely want her daughter around. I know now that it is performance. She is good at it. She has had 29 years of practice. "I have some things to take care of," I say. "But I will see you Friday. 2 o'clock at the notary's office in Bellevue. I will text you the address." Right, she says. "The refinance thing. Your father mentioned it." She does not ask questions. She never asks questions about anything financial. That is Kevin's domain. She just signs where he tells her to sign and trusts that he knows what he is doing. I wonder if she knows that Kevin found the emails all those years ago. I wonder if she knows about the payments, about the decades of extortion, about the fortune Julian poured into Kevin's accounts just for the chance to exist on the periphery of my life. I wonder if she cares. I kiss her on the cheek and walk out the front door. The morning air is cold and damp, typical Seattle weather, the kind that seeps into your bones and stays there. I get into Martha and drive away from the house where I grew up, the house that was never really my home. The drive back to my condo takes 40 minutes. I use the time to think, to process, to try to fit the new information into the framework of my life and see what still makes sense. The answer is nothing. Nothing makes sense anymore. When I get home, I lock the door behind me and lean against it. The condo is quiet. The rain has started again, drumming against the skylights in that rhythm I know so well. For 7 years, this sound has meant safety, home, belonging. Now it just sounds like a clock running out. I take out my laptop and plug in the flash drive. The files are all there. Bank statements, tax records, mortgage documents, and the folder that changed everything. I open it again. This time I read everything. Not skimming, not scanning, but actually reading word by word, email by email, building the full picture of what happened. The full picture of who I am. The affair began in March of 1995. My mother was 23, recently married, already unhappy. Julian was 28, single, working as an architect at a firm in Portland. They met at a conference, one of those industry events where strangers make small talk over bad coffee and rubber chicken. My mother's first email to Julian is dated March 15th, 3 days after the conference ended. I cannot stop thinking about our conversation. About the way you looked at me when you talked about your work. About the way you made me feel like what I said mattered. Kevin never looks at me like that. Kevin never listens to anything I say. Julian's response is careful, measured, the words of a man who knows he is walking towards something dangerous. I have been thinking about you too. More than I should. More than is appropriate. I know you are married. I know this cannot go anywhere. But I would very much like to see you again. The emails continue through spring and into summer. What begins as intellectual connection becomes emotional intimacy, then physical. They meet in hotel rooms in Portland and Seattle, in small towns along the coast where no one knows their names. My mother writes about Kevin with increasing desperation, painting a picture of a man who controls everything, who monitors her spending, who flies into rages over minor infractions. I did not know she was unhappy. I did not know she was afraid. She hid it so well, buried it so deep that even her own daughter never saw the cracks. Julian writes back with promises. Leave him. I will take care of you. We can start over somewhere else, somewhere he will never find us. I have money saved. I have a good job. I can give you the life you deserve. My mother never says yes. She never says no either. She just keeps meeting him, keeps writing to him, keeps living in two worlds at once. And then in August, everything changes. Julian. I took the test this morning. It is positive. I am pregnant. I read the email 3 times. Each time the words hit differently. The first time, shock. The second time, understanding. The third time, something that feels almost like grief. I was not planned. I was not wanted. I was an accident, a complication, a problem to be solved. Julian's response is immediate. Linda, please, do not make any decisions yet. This is our child, our baby. We created this life together. Please let me be part of it. Let me be a father. I will do whatever it takes. I will give up everything. Just please do not shut me out. My mother takes 3 days to respond. When she does, her email is short, final. The words of someone who has already made up her mind. I am going to tell Kevin it is his. He will believe me. He has been wanting children for years. This is the only way to keep everyone safe. You have to understand, Julian. If he finds out the truth, he will destroy all of us. Me, you, the baby. He is not the kind of man who forgives. He is the kind of man who gets even. You have to disappear. You have to let me go. I am sorry. I am so sorry. But this is how it has to be. The correspondence between my mother and Julian ends there. No more secret emails, no more stolen moments. Just silence, stretching across the months while her belly grew and her secret stayed hidden. But the silence did not last. In November of 1995, 2 months after I was born, Kevin found the emails. I do not know how. Maybe my mother was careless. Maybe Kevin was suspicious. Maybe he went looking for something to use against her, some leverage to keep her under his control. Whatever the reason, he found everything. Every declaration of love, every desperate plea, every word that proved his wife had betrayed him and that the baby sleeping in the nursery was not his child. And Kevin, being Kevin, saw an opportunity. His first email to Julian is dated November 20th, 1995. I know what you did. I have the emails. I have proof. You think you can sleep with my wife and walk away. You think there are no consequences. Julian's response is panicked. Kevin, please. It was a mistake. It is over. I will do anything. Just please do not hurt Linda. Do not hurt the baby. Kevin's reply is cold, calculated. The words of a man who has already figured out exactly how to profit from this situation. Here is how this is going to work. The baby is mine, legally on paper in every way that matters. I will raise her. I will give her my name. You are going to disappear. You are never going to contact Linda again. You are never going to try to see the child, Julian writes back. And if I refuse, Kevin's response is long, detailed, full of threats that read like promises. Then I go public. I tell everyone what Linda did. I tell her family, her friends, her coworkers. I tell the child when she is old enough to understand that her mother is a whore who spread her legs for another man while I was working 60 hours a week to put food on the table. I will destroy Linda's reputation. I will make sure she loses everything, and then I will start on you." He pauses, then continues, "Or, you can pay me $50,000 to start. A down payment on my silence. You give me the money and I keep your secret. You give me the money and I raise the child as my own. You give me the money and everyone gets to pretend this never happened." Kevin was 26 years old when he wrote that email. 26 years old and already a predator, already a blackmailer, already the kind of man who sees human beings as resources to be exploited. Julian agreed to pay. Of course he agreed. What choice did he have? The money transfers begin in December of 1995. $50,000 wired from Julian's savings account to an offshore account Kevin had set up. The first of many payments. The beginning of a 30-year extortion scheme that would eventually destroy Julian's life. I scroll through the years. The amounts increase steadily. 50,000 becomes 75. 75 becomes 100. Every few years, Kevin raises the price, citing inflation, citing expenses, citing the cost of raising a child who is not his. In 2005, the year I started high school, Kevin demanded $150,000. "The child is getting expensive," he wrote. "Private school, clothes, activities. You want her to have a good life, do not you? You want her to have opportunities that costs money. And since you are her father, you should be contributing." Julian paid. He always paid. He sold his house, he sold his car, he borrowed against his retirement. He did whatever it took to keep the money flowing, to keep Kevin quiet, to maintain the fragile hope that someday somehow he would get to meet his daughter. And in exchange, Kevin sent him updates. The emails contain attachments, photos of me at various ages, report cards, newspaper clippings from school events. Kevin documented my entire childhood and sold it to my real father, piece by piece, turning my existence into a subscription service. Here is her kindergarten graduation photo. One email reads, "50,000 for this one, and the next school year's updates." "She made the honor roll again," says another. 75,000 for continued access. I look at these emails and I feel something inside me go very cold. I was never a daughter to Kevin Bennett. I was a product, a commodity, a recurring revenue stream disguised as a child. The payments continue until 5 years ago. That is when the emails change. Julian's financial situation had been deteriorating for years. The recession hit him hard. His architecture firm closed. He lost his savings, his investments, everything he had built over decades of work. By 2020, he had nothing left. His last email to Kevin is dated November of that year. "Kevin, I have nothing more to give. The business failed. The house is in foreclosure. I have been living off credit cards for months and those are maxed out too. I cannot send you any more money because I do not have any more money." He pauses. The email continues and I can hear the desperation in every word. "Please, I am begging you. I am 60 years old and I have spent the last 25 years paying for a mistake I made when I was young. I have given you everything I have. All I am asking for is the chance to meet her, just once, just for a few minutes. Let me see my daughter before I die. Let me tell her who I am. You have taken everything else. At least, give me this." Kevin's response is dated 2 days later. "Not enough. Do not contact me again until you have more to offer." That is the end of the correspondence. 5 years of silence. Julian Moore. Somewhere out there, broke and alone and wondering about a daughter who does not know he exists. I close the laptop and sit in the gray light of my living room listening to the rain. 29 years. For 29 years I have believed I was Kevin Bennett's daughter. I have called him Dad. I have sought his approval, his affection, his acknowledgement that I was worth something. I have poured my money and my energy and my love into a family that was built on lies. And the whole time somewhere out there, my real father was doing the same thing, paying for the privilege of loving me from a distance, going bankrupt because he could not stop hoping that someday the man who stole his daughter would let him in. We have both been paying, Julian and I, feeding the same machine, serving the same master, giving everything we have to a man who sees us as nothing but sources of revenue. I think about the condo, about the $200,000 I have poured into it over 7 years. That money was never going toward my future. It was going into Kevin's pocket just like Julian's money went into Kevin's pocket, just like everything has always gone into Kevin's pocket. I was never his daughter. I was his investment. And Tiffany. Tiffany is his real child. Tiffany has his blood, his genes, his capacity for taking without giving. That is why she gets the gifts, the attention, the unconditional love. That is why I get the leftovers, the criticism, the constant reminder that I am not quite good enough. Kevin knew. He knew from the day I was born that I was not his. He kept me anyway, not out of love, not out of any paternal instinct, but because I was profitable. Because my existence gave him leverage over Julian. Because my labor gave him free housekeeping. Because my trust gave him access to my bank account. I have been a hostage my entire life. A prisoner who did not know she was in prison, who thanked her captor for the chains and apologized for the inconvenience of existing. Something shifts inside me. The guilt I have been carrying, the small voice that kept asking if what I was planning was wrong, goes quiet. It does not disappear entirely, but it gets very, very small. A whisper instead of a shout. What I am about to do is not fraud. It is not theft. It is not revenge. It is the collection of a debt that is 29 years overdue. Kevin Bennett owes me. He owes me for every dollar I paid into that mortgage. He owes me for every year I spent believing I was loved. He owes me for the father I never knew, for the childhood I never had, for the person I might have become if I had been raised by someone who actually wanted me. He owes me for Julian. For every dollar my real father sent, every sacrifice he made, every piece of himself he sold to keep the hope alive that someday he would get to meet me. And he is going to pay. I pull up the documents Sarah Chen prepared. The quitclaim deed, the refinance paperwork, the stack of papers that will transfer the condo from Kevin's name to mine. I read through them again, checking every detail, making sure everything is in order. Friday at 2 o'clock. That is when it happens. That is when Kevin Bennett walks into a notary's office and signs away the only piece of property I have ever cared about. He will think he is saving money. He will think he is getting a good deal. He will not read the fine print because he never reads the fine print because he has spent his entire life assuming he is the smartest person in the room. He is wrong. I close the laptop and walk to the window. The rain is heavier now, washing the city in sheets of gray. Somewhere out there in some small apartment or rented room, Julian Moore is living with the wreckage of his life. He does not know that his daughter has found him. He does not know that she knows the truth. But he will. When this is over, when Kevin has been stripped of everything he stole, I will find Julian Moore. I will tell him who I am. I will give him back some fraction of what was taken from him. And Kevin Bennett will learn what it feels like to lose everything. I stand at the window for a long time, watching the rain fall, feeling nothing but cold. The guilt is gone. The hesitation is gone. The part of me that wanted to believe my family could be redeemed, that wanted to find some explanation that would make the betrayal less complete, has finally died. I am not Chloe Bennett anymore. I am not sure who I am, but I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take back my ransom, every penny of it, and then I'm going to disappear, and Kevin Bennett will spend the rest of his life knowing that his own greed destroyed him. That is not revenge. That is justice. Friday arrives wrapped in fog. I wake before dawn and lie in bed listening to my own heartbeat. It sounds different today. Faster. Harder. Like a drum calling soldiers to war. The documents are ready. I checked them 3 times last night and twice more this morning. Every page in order. Every signature line flagged with small colored tabs. Every detail accounted for. Sarah and I spent hours making sure the quitclaim deed would blend seamlessly into the stack, that the fonts would match, that nothing would stand out to anyone who was not looking carefully. Kevin never looks carefully. That is what I am counting on. I shower and dress in the most professional outfit I own, a charcoal blazer I bought for job interviews 3 years ago, a white blouse with buttons that I have to concentrate to fasten because my fingers are trembling. Black slacks that I ironed last night until the creases were sharp enough to cut. I want to look competent, trustworthy, like the kind of person who handles refinancing paperwork all the time, who knows what she is doing, who has everything under control. I want to look like someone Kevin Bennett would never suspect. The drive to Bellevue takes 45 minutes in morning traffic. I arrive at Sarah's office an hour early, parking in the strip mall lot, and sitting in my car with the engine off, watching the fog drift past the windshield. David is already inside when I walk in. He is wearing a suit I have never seen before, dark blue and well-fitted with a name tag clipped to his lapel. The tag says Pacific Northwest Federal Credit Union, and below that, a name that is not his. Daniel Morrison, Loan Processing Specialist. He looks up when I enter and gives me a small nod. "You ready?" he asks. "No," I say. "But I am going to do it anyway." He almost smiles. That is usually how these things work. Sarah emerges from the back room carrying a stack of folders. She is dressed more formally than the last time I saw her, a navy blazer over a cream blouse, her hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. She looks like exactly what she is pretending to be, a professional who does this kind of work every day. "Everything is set up in the conference room," she says. "I have water coffee pens. The documents are arranged in the order we discussed." She looks at me. "Remember, stay calm. Do not rush. Let David do most of the talking. Your job is to be the helpful daughter who arranged all of this for her parents. Nothing more." I nod. My throat is too tight for words. The next hour passes in a blur of final preparations. David reviews the script we developed, the explanations he will give for each document, the phrases designed to reassure without inviting questions. Sarah walks me through the layout of the conference room, where everyone will sit, how the signing will proceed. And then at 1:45 my phone buzzes with a text from my mother. "We are 5 minutes away. Your father is in a mood. He has a golf game at 4:30 and he does not want to be late." I show the text to David. "Perfect," he says. "Impatient people make careless decisions." I type back a response. "No problem. This will be quick." The parking lot is visible from the conference room window. I stand there and watch my father's truck pull in, watch him park in a spot near the entrance, watch my parents get out and walk toward the building. My mother is wearing the nice dress she saves for church. My father is wearing golf clothes. Khaki pants, a polo shirt with a country club logo, white shoes that have never touched actual grass. He is already thinking about the first tee. Already thinking about the fairway, the cold beer at the clubhouse, the friends he will brag to about the money he is saving on his mortgage. He has no idea what is about to happen. Good, I think. Let him be distracted. Let him be impatient. Let him be exactly who he has always been. Sarah goes to meet them at the door. I hear her voice in the hallway, warm and professional, welcoming them to the office. I hear my father grunt something in response. I hear my mother's nervous laugh. And then they are in the conference room, and the final act begins. "Mr. and Mrs. Bennett," David says. He stands and extends his hand, every inch the corporate professional. "Welcome. I am Daniel Morrison with the refinancing department. Thank you for coming in today." My father shakes his hand with the grip of a man who believes handshakes are competitions. My mother shakes his hand with the grip of a woman who has spent her life trying not to take up too much space. I stand in the corner playing my role. The helpful daughter, the one who arranged all of this, the one who does not matter. "Please have a seat," David says. He gestures to the chairs around the conference table. "I know you are busy, so I will try to make this as quick as possible." Kevin sits at the head of the table in the seat directly across from David. He is already assuming he is the most important person in the room. My mother sits beside him, clutching her purse like a life preserver. I take the seat at the end where I can see everyone's faces without being the center of attention. The documents are arranged in a neat stack in front of David. It is at least 2 inches thick, a dense tower of forms and disclosures and legal language that would take hours to read carefully. This is by design. Sarah and I spent days assembling this stack, making sure it was intimidating enough that no one would want to go through it page by page. The quitclaim deed is buried somewhere in the middle, sandwiched between a loan modification agreement and a disclosure statement. It looks exactly like every other document in the pile. Same font, same margins, same blocks of dense text that all blend together after a while. The only difference is what it does. And what it says. David picks up the stack and squares it against the table. As Chloe explained, he says this is a special internal program we are offering to select customers. The new interest rate will be 2.5% down from your current 5%. Based on your remaining balance, this will reduce your monthly payment by approximately $1,000. Kevin's eyes light up. I have seen that look before. It is the look of a predator spotting prey. The look of a man who thinks he is about to get something for nothing. What is the catch, he asks. David smiles. It is a good smile, reassuring, harmless. The smile of someone who processes paperwork for a living and has no agenda beyond getting through the day. No catch, he says. The bank is trying to retain good customers. We have found that offering competitive rates to existing borrowers is more cost-effective than losing them to other lenders. It is just good business. This explanation makes sense to Kevin because he thinks in exactly these terms. Everything is a transaction. Everything is about keeping what you have and getting more. Sounds good to me, he says. Let us get this done. I have somewhere to be. David nods and pulls out a pen. He places it on the table next to the stack of documents. There are quite a few forms here, he says. Standard procedure for any loan modification. I will walk you through the main points and then we just need signatures on the flagged pages. He picks up the first document and holds it so Kevin can see the header. This is the rate modification agreement, he says. It locks in the new interest rate for the remaining term of the loan. I will summarize the key points, but feel free to read through it if you would like. Kevin waves his hand dismissively. Just show me where to sign. David points to the signature line at the bottom of the page. Kevin grabs the pen and scrawls his name without looking at anything else. My mother takes the pen when he is done and signs below him, her handwriting careful and small. David sets the signed document aside and moves to the next one. This is the payment disclosure, he says. It outlines your new monthly amount under the modified rate. Kevin signs. My mother signs. The document goes into the completed pile. We continue through the stack. Document after document. Disclosure after disclosure. David moves through them with practiced efficiency, never lingering too long on any single page, never giving Kevin time to get bored or suspicious. He varies his explanations, sometimes pointing to specific clauses, sometimes summarizing in a sentence or two. Kevin checks his watch twice. He is thinking about golf, about tee times and fairways and the satisfaction of telling his friends how much money he saved today. He has no idea what he is signing. We are about halfway through the stack when it happens. Kevin reaches for the next document, and instead of signing immediately, he pauses. His eyes move across the page, not reading exactly, but scanning, looking for something. My heart stops. This is a lot of paperwork, he says. His voice is casual, but there is something underneath it. A hint of suspicion. The instinct of a man who has survived this long by trusting no one. David does not miss a beat. Standard for any loan modification, he says. The bank requires documentation of everything. Liability purposes. If anything goes wrong down the line, we need to be able to show that all parties understood the terms. Kevin grunts, but he is still looking at the page. What is this section here? He asks. He points to a paragraph near the bottom dense with legal language. Something about acceleration clauses and default conditions. I force myself to breathe. This is not the quitclaim deed. We have not reached that yet. But if Kevin starts reading carefully now, if he starts questioning every document he might notice when we get there. David leans forward and looks at the paragraph Kevin is pointing to. That is the acceleration clause, he says. Standard language in every mortgage agreement. It means that if you default on the new terms, the bank can demand the full balance immediately instead of waiting for the normal foreclosure process. Kevin's eyes narrow. Why would I default? He says. I have been paying this mortgage for 8 years. Never missed a payment. Exactly, David says. Which is why it is not a concern. It is boilerplate language. The lawyers insist on including it, but for a borrower with your payment history, it is essentially meaningless. There is a moment of silence. Kevin is still looking at the document. I can see his jaw working, the muscles in his neck tightening. He is not reading the words. He is deciding whether to trust them. Kevin, my mother says. Her voice is soft, placating, the tone she uses when she wants him to stop making a fuss. The man said it is standard. Can we just finish up? I told the Hendersons we would stop by later. Kevin looks at her, then at David, then at me. Something flickers in his eyes. Recognition, maybe. The sense that something is not quite right. He has survived 55 years by listening to that instinct. It has made him money. It has kept him in control. I hold my breath. And then Kevin shrugs and signs the document. My mother signs after him. David nods and moves to the next page. His face betrays nothing. His voice remains steady. But I see the slight relaxation in his shoulders, the barely perceptible exhale. He felt it too. We were one question away from disaster. The stack continues to shrink. More documents, more signatures, more scrawled initials in boxes that no one bothers to read. The quitclaim deed is 3 pages away. I count them in my head as David works through the stack. 2 more, 1 more, now. David picks up the deed. He does not change his expression. He does not change his tone. He holds it up exactly the same way he has held up every other document. This is the title verification form, he says. Standard procedure. It confirms that the title is clear for the modification. Kevin reaches for the pen. And my mother speaks. Wait, she says. The world stops. The air in the room turns solid. I cannot move. I cannot breathe. I can only watch as my mother leans forward, her eyes on the document in David's hands. That one looks different, she says. The header. It is not the same as the others. She is right. The quitclaim deed has a slightly different format than the loan modification documents. Sarah and I tried to match them as closely as possible, but there are small differences. The letterhead is not from Pacific Northwest Federal. It is from King County. The words quitclaim deed are printed at the top, small but visible if you know where to look. We disguised it with a cover sheet that says title verification document in large letters. But if my mother looks past the cover sheet, if she actually examines the document underneath, she will see what it really is. David does not hesitate. Good eye, Mrs. Bennett, he says. His voice is warm, complimentary, as if she has done something clever. This form comes from the county recorder's office, not the bank. Different department, different format. We have to include it to verify that the title is clear of any liens or encumbrances before we can process the modification. My mother frowns. She is still looking at the document. Should I read it? She asks. I feel the word no rising in my throat. I swallow it back, turn it into a cough, press my hand against my lips. David shakes his head. You are welcome to, of course. But it is just legal boilerplate. Property description, boundary information, standard language about ownership rights. The same information that is in your original deed. Reading it would take about 20 minutes, and it would not tell you anything you do not already know. He smiles. I have been doing this for 15 years, Mrs. Bennett. If there were anything unusual in these documents, I would tell you. This is all completely routine. My mother looks at David. She looks at the document. She looks at Kevin, who has already signed his portion and is checking his watch again. Okay, she says. She picks up the pen and signs her name below Kevin's. I watch the ink dry on the paper. I watch David place the document in the completed pile. I watch him move on to the next form as if nothing happened, as if we did not just survive the closest call of my entire life. My mother almost caught us. My mother, who has spent 30 years nodding along to whatever Kevin says, who never questions anything, almost ruined everything. Maybe there is more to her than I thought. Maybe somewhere inside that compliant shell there is a woman who notices things. Too bad she only uses that instinct to protect Kevin's interests instead of her own. The remaining documents go quickly. No more questions. No more hesitations. Kevin and Linda sign and initial and sign again, and the stack of completed paperwork grows taller, and I sit in my corner and try to remember how to breathe. At 2:47, David places the last signed document on the pile. That is everything he says. He gathers the papers and taps them against the table, aligning the edges. I will file these with the county recorder this afternoon. You should see the new rate reflected in your next statement, and you will receive copies of everything by mail within 10 business days. Kevin stands up and stretches. His body language is loose, satisfied, the posture of a man who has just gotten something for nothing. That was not so bad, he says. You people usually drag this stuff out forever. We try to be efficient, David says. Kevin turns toward the door. He is already thinking about golf, about the first tee, the fairway, the cold beer waiting at the 19th hole. He does not look at me. He does not thank me for arranging this. He just walks out of the conference room like I am furniture. My mother pauses at the door. "Thank you," she says to David. "And to me." "This was very thoughtful of you, Chloe." I smile. The smile I practiced in the mirror. The smile that means nothing. "Of course, Mom. I am just glad I could help." She follows Kevin out. I hear their footsteps in the hallway, hear the front door open and close, hear the engine of my father's truck starting in the parking lot. And then they are gone. I stand at the window and watch them drive away. The truck turns left out of the parking lot, heading toward the golf course, toward the life Kevin thinks he is going to keep living. He has no idea. David comes to stand beside me. "It is done," he says. I nod. My legs feel strange, like they belong to someone else. My hands are shaking. My entire body is shaking. It is done. The quitclaim deed is signed, notarized, legal. My name is now on the title of the condo that I have been paying for since I was 22 years old. Kevin Bennett just signed away his property because he was too greedy to pay attention and too arrogant to read what was in front of him. He walked into this office thinking he was going to save money, and he walked out having lost everything. He does not know it yet. That is the beautiful part. He has no idea. I think about the deed now sitting in David's folder waiting to be filed with King County. Once it is recorded, the transfer becomes public record. Anyone can look it up. Anyone can verify that Chloe Bennett is the legal owner of that property, including Kevin, eventually, when it is too late. David puts a hand on my shoulder. "How do you feel?" he asks. I think about the question. I search inside myself for the guilt I expected to feel, the remorse, the second thoughts that nice people are supposed to have when they do something like this. I find nothing. I feel like I just took back something that was stolen from me, I say. David nods. "Good," he says. "Because the hard part is not over yet. You need to move fast. Once the deed is recorded, the clock starts ticking. You have maybe 2 weeks before Kevin figures out what happened. Less if he decides to check his records for some reason. I know, I say. I have a plan." David looks at me with something that might be respect. "I know you do," he says. "You are not the same person who walked into my office 3 weeks ago. That woman was a victim. The woman standing here now is something else entirely. I think about this. About who I was. About who I am becoming. What am I? I ask. David smiles. It is not a warm smile. It is the smile of someone who recognizes a kindred spirit. A survivor, he says. The most dangerous kind. The kind that learns from what was done to them. He hands me the folder containing the signed documents. "Sarah will file these this afternoon. You should have confirmation of the recording by Monday. After that, the property is yours. What you do with it is your business." I take the folder. It is heavier than it looks. Or maybe I am just feeling the weight of what it represents. "Thank you," I say. "For everything. For believing me. For helping me." David shakes his head. "Do not thank me yet," he says. "Thank me when it is over. Thank me when Kevin Bennett is sitting in his house wondering how he lost everything." He pauses. "And when that happens, when he realizes what you did, remember something. You did not do this to hurt him. You did this to save yourself. There is a difference." I nod. I understand what he is saying. The difference between revenge and justice. The difference between cruelty and survival. I am not cruel. I am not vindictive. I am just a woman who finally decided to stop being a victim. I walk out of the office into the gray Bellevue afternoon. The fog has lifted slightly, revealing a pale sun trying to break through the clouds. The air is cold and damp, but I barely feel it. I get into Martha and sit behind the wheel for a long moment, holding the folder in my lap. It is done. The condo is mine. Now I just have to figure out how to disappear before Kevin realizes what happened. I start the engine and pull out of the parking lot. I have phone calls to make, arrangements to finalize, a life to dismantle and rebuild somewhere else. But first I allow myself one moment, one small moment of something that feels almost like triumph. I did it. I beat him. And he still does not know. My father drops me off at the end of the driveway because he does not want to waste time pulling all the way in. The truck is still rolling when I open the door and step out. I hear him say something to my mother about traffic, about tea times, about how these things always take longer than they should. I wave goodbye. He does not wave back. The moment the truck disappears around the corner, I pull out my phone. I have been preparing for this moment for 2 weeks. The day after my first meeting with David Klein, before I even knew about Julian, I contacted 3 iBuyer companies. Cascade Home Solutions responded fastest. I told them I was considering selling, asked about their process, sent them the property information from public records. They ran a preliminary assessment based on comparable sales in the neighborhood. All they needed was the deed in my name and a quick inspection to confirm condition. Now I have the deed. I have been preparing for this moment for 2 weeks. Ever since the meeting with David Klein, I have been researching, learning the market, identifying buyers who move fast and ask few questions. iBuyers. That is what they call themselves. Investment companies that purchase properties for cash sight unseen with closings that happen in days instead of weeks. They pay below market value because speed has a price. I am willing to pay that price. I pull up the contact at Cascade Home Solutions and send the message I have been composing in my head since the moment Kevin signed that deed. Title transferred today. Ready to close immediately. $500,000 cash, 10 days. Interested. The property is worth $600,000, maybe more if I waited for the right buyer, if I staged it properly, if I played the game the way normal sellers play it. But I do not have time for games. I have days, maybe hours, before Kevin discovers what happened. I need to be gone before that moment arrives. The response comes faster than I expected. 12 minutes after I send my message, my phone buzzes with a reply. We can do 500, need title documents and access for inspection. If everything checks out, we can close in 10 days. We have our own title company and escrow service. Expedited process for cash buyers. Monday. Today is Friday. That gives me the weekend to disappear. I type back immediately. Title documents attached. Property available for inspection tomorrow morning. Contact me when ready to proceed. The property is not vacant. Not yet. I am still living in it, still surrounded by 7 years of accumulated belongings, still sleeping in the bed I bought with money I did not have because I wanted something nice for the home I thought was mine. But by this time tomorrow, none of that will be there. I attach the documents David prepared. The recorded deed showing my name as the sole owner. The title search Sarah ran last week showing the property free of liens except for the mortgage, which will be paid off at closing from the sale proceeds. Everything is clean. Everything is in order. I have spent 2 weeks making sure of it. The iBuyer responds within the hour. Their inspector can come tomorrow at 10. If everything checks out, they will wire the funds Monday morning. I confirm the appointment and put my phone away. My hands are shaking again, but this time it feels different. Not fear. Anticipation. The thrill of watching a plan come together exactly as designed. I go inside and start making a list. The inspection is scheduled for Monday morning. That gives me the weekend to prepare. I have not slept. I have spent the night going through my belongings, sorting them into categories. Things I want to keep. Things I can sell. Things that do not matter anymore. The third category is the largest. At 8 o'clock, I call a company called Quick Liquidators. Their advertisement promises same-day pickup and cash on the spot. I tell them I have a fully furnished 1-bedroom condo and I need everything gone by tonight. The woman on the phone asks no questions. She gives me a quote of $3,000 for the lot. I accept without negotiating. At 9:30, a van pulls up outside my building. 2 men in work clothes get out and start loading boxes of packing supplies. I meet them at the door and walk them through the apartment, pointing out what stays and what goes. Everything goes. The couch I saved for 6 months to buy. The dining table I assembled myself because I could not afford delivery. The bed where I have slept for 7 years dreaming dreams that turned out to be lies. The bookshelf I built from scratch filled with novels I will never read again. The men work quickly, efficiently wrapping furniture and moving blankets and carrying it down to the van. They do not ask why I am selling everything. They do not ask where I am going. They just load and lift and stack, reducing my entire life to cargo. Monday at 10, the iBuyer's inspector arrives. He is a young man in a company polo carrying a clipboard and a camera. I let him in and stand in the corner while he walks through the apartment, taking pictures, making notes, checking boxes on his form. He looks at the empty spaces where my furniture used to be. "You moving out already?" he asks. "Getting a head start," I say. He nods and continues his inspection. He does not care about my story. He only cares about the property, the walls, the floors, the appliances, the crack by the kitchen window that I never got around to fixing. "Everything looks good," he says when he finishes. "I will file my report this afternoon. You should hear from us by end of day." "Thank you," I say. He leaves. The liquidators finish loading the last of my furniture. The woman from the company arrives with an envelope of cash, $3,000 in 20s handed over in exchange for everything I used to own. I stand in the doorway and watch the van pull away. Inside, the apartment is empty. Bare walls, bare floors, bare windows. It looks like no one has ever lived here. It looks like a shell, a husk, a place waiting to become something else. My phone rings on day 6. Kevin's name on the screen. I let it ring 3 times before answering. What I say? I make my voice sound tired, distracted. The voice of someone in the middle of packing. "Tiffany wants to move in next weekend," he says. "No greeting, no preamble. You need to be out by then. I know, Dad. I am almost done packing. Working on it is not good enough." He is angry now. I can hear it in the clipped syllables, the rising volume. His impatience has turned into something harder. I want that place empty by tomorrow night. Tiffany wants to start setting up her furniture. I look around the empty apartment. The irony is almost too much. "I am packing as fast as I can," I say. "I will be out by tomorrow, I promise." "You better be," he says. "And make sure you leave the keys on the counter." "I will." He hangs up without saying goodbye. This does not surprise me. Kevin Bennett has never said goodbye to me. He has only ever said what he wants and expected me to deliver it. I set down the phone and walk to the center of the living room. The light is different without furniture. Colder. The shadows fall in unfamiliar patterns, and the sounds echo in ways they never did before. My footsteps are too loud. My breathing is too loud. Everything is too loud in this hollow space. I walk to the wall by the kitchen window. The one with the crack I have been staring at for 3 years. Below the crack, barely visible unless you know where to look, is a series of small marks. Pencil lines on the paint with dates written next to them in my handwriting. 23 years old. First month in the apartment. 24 years old. After I repainted the trim. 25 years old. The summer I thought I might actually be happy. I have been measuring my height against this wall since I moved in. A silly ritual, a holdover from childhood when my mother used to mark my growth on the doorframe of my bedroom. I kept doing it here because it made the apartment feel like home. Because it made me feel like I was growing into someone. I press my palm against the wall, feeling the texture of the paint beneath my fingers. The marks are faint now, faded by time and cleaning. But I can still see them if I look closely. I can still trace the history of my life in this place. I dig my fingernail into the edge of the paint. It peels away easier than I expected. A strip of white coming off to reveal the primer underneath. I pull another strip. Another. The paint comes away in ribbons curling like dead skin, exposing layers of color beneath. Primer. Drywall. The raw materials of a home that was never really mine. I tear at the wall until my fingers ache, until there is a bare patch the size of my hand, rough and gray with the pencil marks completely erased. I stand back and look at what I have done. It looks like a wound. An absence. A place where something used to be. Good. I walk to the kitchen and open the drawer where I keep paper and pens. I pull out a sheet of white stationery and a black pen, and I sit on the cold tile floor and I write. The letter takes a long time. I write and cross out and write again, searching for the right words, the words that will say everything I need to say without saying too much. I do not want to explain myself. I do not want to justify what I have done. I just want them to know. When I finish, I fold the letter and slide it into an envelope. I write nothing on the outside. They will know who it is from. I open the cabinet beneath the kitchen sink, the one nobody checks until something breaks. I tape the envelope to the inside of the door at eye level. White paper against white paint. Easy to miss unless you are looking for it. But when they start searching, when they tear this place apart looking for answers, they will find it. Then I gather the small bag I packed this morning. 2 changes of clothes, My laptop, my phone charger, the flash drive with all of Kevin's files. Everything else is gone. Sold, discarded, left behind. I stand at the door and take one last look at the apartment. 7 years. $200,000. Countless hours of cleaning and fixing and caring for a place I thought was mine. All of it reduced to empty rooms and bare walls and a single envelope on the floor. I do not feel sad. I thought I would feel sad, but I do not. I feel light, lighter than I have felt in years. The weight of this place, the weight of everything it represented, is finally lifting off my shoulders. I turn off the lights and close the door. I do not lock it. There is no point anymore. The wire comes through on day 10, a Thursday morning at 9:47. I watch the notification appear on my phone while sitting in a coffee shop in Tacoma, 50 miles from Seattle, far enough away that no one will think to look for me here. $500,000, minus the remaining balance on the mortgage, minus closing costs and fees. The final amount that lands in my new account, the one I opened last week under my middle name, is $312,000. I stare at the number for a long time. This is more money than I have ever had, more money than I ever expected to have. $312,000 earned by taking back what was stolen from me. It is not enough. It will never be enough. Kevin Bennett took more from me than money can measure. He took my childhood, my identity, my relationship with my real father. He took 29 years of my life and converted them into profit. But this is a start. I open a new transfer and enter an amount. $200,000. The same amount I paid into the mortgage over 7 years. The same amount Kevin thought he was going to steal from me. I enter a recipient. Julian Moore. It took me 3 days to find him. 3 days of searching through public records and social media and the kind of databases you can access if you know where to look. He is living in Portland now in a small apartment on the east side. He works at a used bookstore, makes minimum wage, has nothing to his name except a social security check and whatever tips customers leave in the jar by the register. He is 65 years old, and he has spent the last 30 years paying for the privilege of loving his daughter from a distance. I am going to give him back what Kevin took. I confirm the transfer. The money moves instantly and visibly from my account to his. He will wake up tomorrow morning to find his life transformed. He will not know why. He will not know who. Not yet. I close the banking app and finish my coffee. Outside the window, the rain has started again. Seattle weather following me, south gray skies and wet streets, and the constant drizzle that makes everything feel muted and small. I pull out my phone and remove the SIM card. I snap it in half and drop the pieces into my empty cup. Then I get up, put on my jacket, and walk out into the rain. I have a rental car waiting 2 blocks away. I have a cash payment ready for a motel that does not ask questions. I have a plan that will take me far from here, far from everyone I used to know, far from the name I used to wear. Chloe Bennett is gone. I do not know who I am becoming, but for the first time in my life, I get to decide. The interstate stretches south like a gray ribbon unraveling into fog. I have been driving for 3 hours. The rental car smells like artificial pine and stale coffee, a scent I will probably remember for the rest of my life. The windshield wipers beat a steady rhythm against the drizzle, and the radio plays something soft and forgettable, the kind of music they put on stations that no one actually listens to. I keep checking the rearview mirror. Not because I think anyone is following me. No one knows where I am. No one knows I am gone. I check because I cannot stop looking backward, cannot stop expecting to see the life I left behind catching up to me. The coffee shop in Tacoma is 40 miles behind me now. The broken pieces of my SIM card are dissolving in a drain somewhere on Pine Street. The phone itself is still in my pocket, useless, a dead rectangle of glass and metal that used to contain my entire existence. I will buy a new one when I get to Portland. A prepaid phone from a convenience store paid for in cash, registered to no one. The kind of phone that people use when they do not want to be found. My laptop sits on the passenger seat, open to my banking app. I glance at it every few minutes, watching the number on the screen, making sure it is still there. $312,000.47, the remains of a life converted to currency. The money arrived this morning at 9:47. I remember the exact time because I was holding my breath when the notification appeared, half convinced that something would go wrong at the last moment. that the iBuyer would back out, that Kevin would discover the truth and freeze the sale, that someone somewhere would realize what I had done and stop me before I could finish. But none of that happened. The money simply appeared clean and final, transferred from the title company's escrow account to the new checking account I opened last week. The account that has my middle name on it instead of my first. The account that no one in my family knows exists. I think about what that money represents. $500,000 from the sale. Minus $162,000 to pay off the remaining mortgage. Minus closing costs, transfer fees, the iBuyer's discount for speed. What remains is mine. Completely, legally, irrevocably mine. For the first time in my life, I have enough money to start over. The first thing I did with it was give most of it away. I pull up the transfer confirmation on my phone screen, even though I have already looked at it a dozen times. $200,000 wired to an account belonging to Julian Marcus Moore of Portland, Oregon. The transfer went through at 10:15 this morning. By now, he has probably seen it. By now, his entire world has changed. I wonder what he felt when he checked his balance. Confusion, probably. Disbelief. Maybe fear, the way anyone would feel fear when something impossible appears without explanation. He does not know who sent the money. He does not know why. All he knows is that the number in his account has transformed from something small and desperate into something that might actually matter. $200,000. The same amount I paid into Kevin Bennett's mortgage over 7 years. The same amount I was supposed to lose when they gave my home to Tiffany. It felt right giving it to Julian. Like closing a loop, like balancing an equation that has been wrong for decades. He spent years paying for me. Now I am paying him back. Not because I owe him anything, but because Kevin owes both of us everything, and this is the closest I can come to collecting. I still have over $100,000 left. Enough to disappear properly. Enough to build something new. The fog thickens as I cross into Lewis County. The trees on either side of the highway fade into gray shapes, ghosts of a landscape I can barely see. I think about the apartment I left behind, the empty rooms, the bare walls, the envelope on the kitchen floor. They will find it soon. Tomorrow probably, when Tiffany shows up with her moving truck and her designer furniture and her plans for the life she was going to live in my home. She will walk through the door expecting to see my belongings gone and the keys waiting on the counter. Instead, she will find nothing. Bare floors, bare walls, and a single white envelope sitting in the middle of the kitchen like a message from a ghost. I imagine my father's face when he reads what I wrote. The confusion first, then the anger, then the slow dawning realization of what happened. He will call the county recorder's office. He will discover that the deed was transferred, that his name is no longer on the title, that his daughter now owns the property he was planning to steal, and then he will discover that his daughter sold it. I imagine him calling the police, calling lawyers, calling anyone who will listen to his outrage. I imagine him shouting about fraud and theft and demanding that someone do something. I imagine him learning slowly that there is nothing anyone can do, that the quitclaim deed was legally executed, that he signed it himself in front of a notary of his own free will. I imagine him realizing that he lost because he was too greedy to read the paperwork. The thought should make me happy. It does not. It makes me feel hollow, empty, like the apartment I left behind. Revenge is supposed to be sweet. That is what they say. But it does not taste sweet to me. It tastes like ash and cold coffee, and miles of gray highway stretching toward nowhere. I pull off at a rest stop near Centralia. The parking lot is mostly empty, just a few trucks idling near the edge, and a family unloading children near the bathrooms. I park away from everyone else and sit for a moment watching the rain beat on the windshield. The phone in my pocket is dead, but I still have the urge to check it, to see if anyone has called, to see if the world I left behind has noticed my absence yet. Old habits, hard to break. I get out of the car and walk to the edge of the parking lot where a drain grate sits in the concrete. The rain is light but steady, the kind that soaks through your clothes so gradually you do not notice until you are already wet. I pull out the dead phone and look at it one last time. This device has been my connection to everything. My calendar, my contacts, my banking apps, my social media. It knows where I have been and where I was going. It knows who I talked to and what I said. It knows me better than anyone ever has. I drop it through the grate. The sound it makes is small, A plastic clatter, then a splash as it hits the water below. Gone. Irretrievable. Another piece of Chloe Bennet sinking into darkness. I stand there for a moment, feeling the rain on my face, feeling the weight of what I have just done. There is no going back now. Even if I wanted to, even if I changed my mind and decided to return to Seattle and beg my family's forgiveness, I could not. The money is spent. The property is sold. The bridges are not just burned, they are demolished. The foundations salted the ground where they stood, scorched beyond recognition. I am not Chloe Bennet anymore. I do not know who I am. I get back in the car and keep driving. The border between Washington and Oregon is invisible. No signs, no checkpoints, no indication that you have crossed from one world into another. Just a river gray and swollen with rain, and then the highway continues on the other side, the same road with a different state name. I cross the Columbia around 2 in the afternoon. The bridge stretches over the water like a skeleton, steel and concrete holding back the weight of the sky. On the other side is a place where no one knows me, a place where I can become anyone I want. I have thought a lot about who that person might be, not Chloe. That name belongs to a girl who believed her parents loved her, who paid $200,000 for a home that was never hers, who spent 29 years being invisible. I do not want to be her anymore. Not Bennett either. That name belongs to a man who sold his daughter piece by piece, who treated me like an investment rather than a child, who never loved me because I was never really his. I think about Julian, about the money sitting in his account right now, waiting for him to understand what it means. About the emails I read on Kevin's computer, the desperation and love and grief that poured through those messages like blood from a wound. He wanted to know me. For 30 years he wanted nothing more than to know his daughter. And Kevin kept us apart, kept me ignorant, kept cashing the checks while Julian destroyed himself trying to earn a few minutes of my time. I am going to find him. That is why I am driving to Portland. Not just to disappear, but to find the father who was stolen from me. I do not know what I will say. I do not know if he will believe me when I tell him who I am. I do not even know if I want him to be my father, not in the way that matters. You cannot build a relationship out of money and stolen emails. You cannot create a bond that should have had 29 years to grow. But I want to try. I want to give him the chance that Kevin took away. I want to look into the eyes of the man who loved me before I was born and see if there is anything left. The highway carries me south, past forests and farms and small towns with names I do not recognize, past billboards advertising things I will never buy and restaurants I will never visit, past the life I used to have and into the life I am making. I think about the letter I left in the apartment, the words I chose so carefully, revised so many times, trying to say everything without saying too much. I told them about Julian. Not everything, but enough. Enough so they would know that I know. Enough so Kevin would understand that his secret is not a secret anymore. I told them about the condo, about the deed I made him sign, about the sale that already happened, the money already gone. I told them not to bother looking for me because by the time they read the letter, I would already be someone else. I told them I was taking back my ransom. That is the phrase I used. The ransom they collected on my existence for 29 years. From Julian. From me. From everyone who ever made the mistake of loving me in a house where love was just another currency. I did not tell them where I was going. I did not tell them my new name. I did not give them anything they could use to find me because I do not want to be found. Not by them. Not ever. I am done being their daughter. I am done being anyone's debt. The rain stops somewhere south of Salem. The clouds begin to break apart, letting through pale strips of afternoon sun. For the first time in what feels like weeks, the world does not look gray. I take it as a sign. Not of anything divine, not of any cosmic approval for what I have done. Just a sign that things change. That even the heaviest clouds eventually move on. My exit is coming up. Portland. The city where Julian Moore lives in a small apartment and works at a used bookstore and has no idea that his daughter is driving toward him right now, that she has been driving all day, that she is about to knock on his door and change his life for the second time in 24 hours. I do not know what happens after that. I do not know if he will want to see me, if he will believe me, if any of this will turn out the way I hope. I have spent so long planning the destruction of my old life that I have barely thought about what the new one will look like. Maybe that is okay. Maybe the not knowing is the whole point. I take the exit and merge onto the surface streets. The city rises around me, unfamiliar buildings and unfamiliar faces, a whole world of strangers who have never heard the name Chloe Bennett. I pull into the parking lot of a convenience store and turn off the engine. In my bag is a piece of paper with an address on it. Julian's address. The place where he has been living since he lost everything, since Kevin bled him dry, since he gave up hope of ever seeing me again. I am about to give him that hope back. I am about to give myself something too. A father. A history. A reason for existing that does not involve being sold. I take a breath. I open the car door. I step out into the cold Portland air. Behind me, Washington. Seattle. The family that was never mine. Ahead of me, everything else. I start walking. I am sitting in a coffee shop on Hawthorne Boulevard when my phone buzzes. Not my old phone. That one is in pieces somewhere in a storm drain in Tacoma. This is a new one, prepaid, bought at a convenience store the day I crossed into Oregon. Only 2 people have this number. Julian, who I have not contacted yet, and David Klein, who insisted on having a way to reach me. The message is from David. It happened. I have a contact at Seattle PD who owed me a favor. Thought you would want to know how it went down. I stare at the screen for a long moment. Then I close my eyes and let myself picture it, filling in the details around the facts David sends me over the next hour. Tiffany is driving her new car, the white Audi our father bought her for graduation. She has 3 friends in the back seat, sorority sisters with matching highlights and vocal fry, all of them squealing about the apartment and the view and how jealous everyone is going to be. She has been posting about this day for a week. Housewarming party, new place, new chapter. The hashtags are absurd. Blessed. Home sweet home. Downtown living. My parents follow in my father's truck. My mother is holding a bottle of champagne, the expensive kind, the kind they never bought for me. My father is wearing his good jacket, the one he saves for occasions when he wants to impress people. He is thinking about how well this worked out, how he played the situation perfectly, how his idiot daughter made it so easy signing over her mortgage payments for 7 years and then walking away without a fight. He does not know yet. None of them know. They park in the garage beneath the building. They take the elevator to the 12th floor, laughing and chatting. My mother worrying about whether Tiffany has enough towels. Tiffany's friends asking about the square footage and the appliances. They walk down the hallway to Unit 1207, the door I have walked through 1,000 times, the door that used to be mine. My father pulls out his key. I imagine his face when it does not work. The confusion. First, the assumption that he must be doing something wrong. He tries again, jiggles the handle, pushes harder. The key slides into the lock but will not turn because the lock has been changed because the person who lives here now has their own keys. He knocks. Hard, impatient, the knock of a man who believes doors should open for him. Nothing happens. He knocks again, harder this time, his fist against the wood, demanding entry, demanding that the world conform to his expectations. And then the door opens. But it is not me standing on the other side. It is not Chloe Bennett, the obedient daughter, the quiet one, the doormat who always did what she was told. It is a stranger. A woman in her 30s maybe, with dark hair and confused eyes and a baby on her hip. The woman looks at my father. She looks at my mother, at Tiffany, at the champagne bottle and the sorority girls and the entitlement radiating off them like heat. "Can I help you?" she asks. My father does not understand. I can see it in my imagination, the way his brain struggles to process what is in front of him. There is someone in his apartment, someone who does not belong, someone who is looking at him like he is the intruder. "Who the hell are you?" he says. "What are you doing in my house?" The woman's expression changes. The confusion hardens into something else. She steps back slightly, shifting the baby to her other hip, her free hand reaching for the phone in her pocket. "Your house. This is my house. I just bought this place 3 days ago." "Who are you?" My father pushes forward, trying to get past her, trying to get into the apartment. The woman blocks him. Her husband appears behind her, a large man with broad shoulders and an expression that says he is not going to let anyone push his wife around. "Sir," the husband says, "you need to step back. Now." "This is my property," my father shouts. "I own this condo. I have for 8 years. You need to get out." The woman is on her phone now. "Yes, hello. I need police. There are people trying to break into my apartment. They are claiming they own it." Tiffany is crying. I can imagine that too. The mascara running down her cheeks, the perfectly styled hair starting to frizz, the Instagram-ready moment dissolving into something ugly and real. Her friends are backing away, suddenly aware that this is not the fun housewarming party they were promised. My mother is frozen. She does not move, does not speak, just stands there with the champagne bottle dangling from her fingers, watching the scene unfold like she is watching a show on television. Like none of this is really happening. Like if she stays still enough, it will all go back to normal. The husband is showing my father something. A piece of paper. I know what it says without having to see it. It is the deed. The recorded deed showing that the property was transferred from Kevin Bennett to Chloe Bennett on Friday, and then from Chloe Bennett to the new owners on Monday. Legal. Binding. Irreversible. I bought this place from Chloe Bennett, the husband says. Paid cash. Here is the paperwork. I do not know who you are, but you need to leave before the cops get here. My father's face. I wish I could see it. I wish I could watch the moment when understanding arrives, when he realizes what happened, when he traces back through the events of the past week and figures out exactly how badly he has been played. The refinancing appointment, the stack of papers, the signature lines he did not bother to read. He signed away his property because he was too greedy to pay attention, because he trusted me, because he thought I was still the same obedient doormat who would never fight back. He was wrong. Tiffany is not just crying now. She is screaming. I can imagine the sound, high and raw and ugly. The sound of someone who has never been told no, discovering that the world does not revolve around her. She pushes past the husband into the apartment looking for something. Looking for her life, maybe. Looking for the future she was promised. The apartment is empty. All my furniture is gone. All my belongings are gone. There is nothing left but bare walls and bare floors and the ghost of 7 years of paying for something I never owned. Tiffany does not understand this. She sees empty rooms and she thinks they are waiting for her. She thinks she can still fill them with her furniture, her personality, her Instagram-worthy existence. She starts opening cabinets, looking in closets as if she might find her new life hiding in a corner somewhere. "Get out of my house!" the woman shouts. She is holding her baby tight, her face pale with fear and anger. "Get out, or I swear to God, I will press charges." The police arrive 8 minutes later. 2 officers in dark uniforms, hands on their belts, faces arranged in the neutral expression of people who have seen this kind of thing before. They separate the parties. They take statements. They look at the paperwork, and they look at my father, and they tell him very clearly that he needs to leave. He does not leave. I know my father. I know how he responds when the world does not bend to his will. He argues. He shouts. He threatens. He tells the officers that they are making a mistake, that this is his property, that someone has committed fraud, and they need to do something about it. The officers are not impressed. They have seen entitled men before. They have dealt with people who believe that volume and confidence can substitute for being right. "Sir," one of them says, "the deed shows this property was legally sold. If you believe fraud was committed, you can file a complaint and pursue it through the courts. But right now, you are trespassing on private property, and if you do not leave, we will arrest you." My father does not leave. The handcuffs make a clicking sound when they close around his wrists. At least I imagine they do. I have never been handcuffed. I have never been arrested. But I have seen it on television, and in my mind the sound is loud and final, the sound of consequences arriving for a man who has spent his whole life avoiding them. They put him in the back of the patrol car. My mother follows in the truck crying, asking questions that no one can answer. Tiffany is left standing on the curb with her sorority friends, her perfect day in ruins, her new apartment occupied by strangers who have every legal right to be there. David's next message arrives 20 minutes later. "It gets better. They found your letter." I imagine Tiffany going back inside, desperate, searching for something, but she does not have any things. She never moved anything in. All she has is the key my father gave her at graduation, the key that does not work anymore, the key to a life that evaporated before she could step into it. According to David, they searched the apartment for almost an hour before someone thought to check under the sink. My mother was the one who found it taped inside the cabinet door. She must have been looking for cleaning supplies, or maybe just opening every door and drawer in desperation, hoping to find some explanation for what had happened. She found one. My mother opens it. Inside is a letter. Not long, not emotional, just facts. I know about Julian, it begins. I know he is my real father. I know Kevin has been blackmailing him for 30 years, collecting hundreds of thousands of dollars in exchange for letting him watch his daughter from a distance. I have copies of every email, every transaction, every record of what Kevin did. I have taken back what was stolen from me. The condo is sold, the money is gone. $200,000 went to Julian to begin repaying what Kevin extorted from him. The rest is mine payment for 29 years of being treated like property instead of a person. Do not look for me. I am already gone. The name Chloe Bennett is dead. Whoever I become next will have nothing to do with you. Tell Kevin he finally taught me something useful. He taught me that family is just a word people use to justify taking from each other. I have learned that lesson well. Goodbye. I imagine my mother's face as she reads this. I imagine the color draining away, the hands beginning to shake, the slow, horrible understanding settling into her bones. She knew about Julian. She has always known. She is the one who had the affair, who got pregnant, who handed her husband a secret he could weaponize for 3 decades. She knew, and she let it happen. She let Kevin turn her mistake into a business. She let him sell her daughter to her daughter's own father. She stood by and said nothing because saying something would have meant admitting what she did. David's final message comes an hour later. The new owners gave the letter to the police as evidence. Apparently your mother read it out loud in the hallway. Half the building heard everything. Good, I think. Let them hear. Let everyone know what Kevin Bennett really is. I set down my phone and opened my eyes. The coffee shop is quiet around me. The strangers outside the window continue passing by, living their lives unaware that 200 miles north a family is falling apart. Unaware that somewhere in Seattle a man is sitting in the back of a police car, learning what it feels like to lose everything. I do not feel triumph. I thought I would. I thought this moment, the moment of Kevin's downfall, would taste like victory. But it tastes like nothing. It tastes like cold tea and empty air, and the slow realization that revenge does not fill the holes it promises to fill. My father is going to be fine. He will make bail. He will hire a lawyer. He will try to sue me. Probably will try to claim fraud and coercion and whatever else he can think of. But he will lose. David already warned me about this. The deed was properly executed. The signatures were genuine. The notarization was legitimate. Kevin signed away his property because he did not read what was in front of him, and the law does not protect people from their own carelessness. He will lose the condo. He will lose the money. He might even lose his freedom if Julian decides to press charges for the decades of extortion. But he will not lose everything. People like Kevin never lose everything. They always find a way to land on their feet, to shift the blame, to convince themselves that they are the real victims. I do not care anymore. I look down at the piece of paper in my hands. Julian's address. The place I have been heading since I left Seattle. The place where my real father lives, where he wakes up every morning to a bank account that is $200,000 richer than it was last week, where he wonders who sent the money and why. I am going to tell him. I am going to knock on his door and introduce myself and watch his face when he realizes that his daughter has finally found him. That she knows the truth. That she has been looking for him just as long as he has been looking for her. I do not know if it will work. I do not know if we can build something out of the wreckage of what Kevin destroyed. But I want to try. I want to give both of us the chance we were denied. I leave money on the table and walk out into the Portland afternoon. Behind me, Seattle. The family that used me. The father who was never my father. Ahead of me, a small apartment on the east side of the city. A used bookstore. A man who has spent 30 years waiting. I start walking toward him. The bookstore is called Powell's Corner, and it sits on a quiet street in southeast Portland, where the trees have started to turn color and the rain falls soft and steady like a promise. I stand outside for a long time before going in. The window is cluttered with old paperbacks and handwritten recommendation cards, the kind of display that suggests the owner cares more about books than business. A bell hangs above the door, tarnished brass that has been ringing for decades. Through the glass I can see shelves stretching back into shadows, aisles narrow enough that you have to turn sideways to pass. And I can see him. He is standing near the back sorting a box of donations. His hair is gray, thinning at the crown, and his shoulders have the slight stoop of a man who has spent too many years carrying weight he should not have had to carry. He wears a cardigan with patches on the elbows and reading glasses pushed up on his forehead, forgotten there while he works. Julian Moore. 65 years old. The man who loved me before I was born. I have rehearsed this moment 100 times. In the car, in the motel room, in the sleepless hours before dawn, when the world is quiet enough to think. I have imagined what I would say, how I would introduce myself, what expression I would wear when I walked through that door. Now I am here, and all my rehearsals feel useless. I push open the door. The bell rings, a small, clear sound that echoes through the store. Julian looks up from his box of books, his face arranged in the automatic smile of someone who greets customers for a living. "Welcome to Powell's," he says. "Let me know if you need help finding anything." His voice is deeper than I expected. Warmer. It has the quality of a voice that has read stories aloud, that has shaped words carefully, that knows the weight of language. I do not move from the doorway. I am looking at his eyes. They are brown. The same brown as mine. The same shape, the same depth, the same way they crinkle at the corners when he smiles. I have looked at my own eyes in the mirror every day for 29 years, without understanding where they came from. Now I know. He notices me staring. His smile falters slightly, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his features. "Can I help you with something?" he asks. I step further into the store. The floorboards creak under my feet. The smell of old paper surrounds me like an embraced dust and ink, and the particular mustiness of books that have been loved. I stop a few feet away from him, close enough to see the lines on his face, the gray in his stubble, the tremor in his hands that might be age or might be something else. Close enough to see the person he has become after 30 years of waiting. I do not run to him. I do not throw my arms around him. I do not cry or shout, or do any of the things I imagined doing when I finally found him. I just stand there, and I smile. "Hello," I say. "Hello, My name is Rose. I am the one who sent you the money." He does not understand at first. I can see the confusion in his eyes, the attempt to process what I have said. He opens his mouth to respond, probably to ask what money, probably to explain that there must be some mistake. Then he stops. He looks at me again. Really looks the way you look at something you have been searching for your whole life. His gaze moves across my face, cataloging features, comparing them to memories he has carried for 3 decades. The shape of my nose, the curve of my jaw, the eyes that are the same as his. The color drains from his face. His hand reaches out, not to touch me, just to reach, as if he is testing whether I am real or just another dream. His fingers stop inches from my shoulder. They hang there trembling. "You," he says. His voice is barely a whisper. "You are." I nod. "I found out," I say. "About everything. About the emails. About the money you sent. About what Kevin did to keep us apart." Julian's eyes fill with tears. They spill over, running down his cheeks, disappearing into the gray stubble. He does not wipe them away. He does not seem to notice them at all. "I tried," he says. "For 30 years, I tried. I sent everything I had. I would have given more. I would have given anything." "I know," I say. I read the emails. All of them. His face crumples. The composure he has been holding together dissolves, and suddenly I am looking at a man who has been wounded so deeply that the scar tissue has become part of who he is. He sinks onto a nearby stool, his legs unable to support him any longer. "I never stopped," he says. "Not once. Even when I lost everything. Even when I had nothing left to give. I never stopped hoping that someday, somehow." He cannot finish the sentence. His voice breaks apart, scattered by 30 years of grief, finally given permission to escape. I move closer. I do not hug him, not yet. We are strangers despite everything. We are two people who share blood, and nothing else, who have been robbed of all the experiences that would have made us family. You cannot rebuild that in a single moment. You cannot undo 3 decades of loss with one conversation in a bookstore. But you can start. I sit down on a box of books across from him. We are at eye level now, our matching gazes meeting in the dusty light. I am not here because I want something from you, I say. I am not here because I need a father. I have spent 29 years without one. I have learned how to live with that. He nods, tears still streaming, waiting for me to continue. I am here because Kevin took something from both of us, I say. He took your money. He took my childhood. He took the chance we should have had to know each other. I pause. I cannot give any of that back, I say. But I wanted you to know that I know. That the daughter you were paying for all those years, the one you were not allowed to see, she found out. And she is here. And she is okay. Julian reaches out again. This time his hand does not stop. His fingers touch my shoulder, light as a breath, as if he is afraid I will disappear if he presses too hard. You look like her, he says. Like your mother. When she was young. I do not know how to respond to this. I do not know how I feel about looking like the woman who betrayed her husband and then let that husband turn her child into a commodity. But I do not say any of that. There will be time for complicated feelings later. Right now, this moment is simple. I take his hand. His skin is papery and warm, the hand of an old man who has worked hard and lost hard and somehow kept going anyway. I want to get to know you, I say, if you will let me. He laughs through his tears, a broken sound, half sob and half joy. Let you, he says. I have been waiting for this since you were born. We sit there for a moment, holding hands like two strangers learning how not to be strangers anymore. The bell above the door does not ring. No customers come in. The world outside continues without us. But in here, time has paused. Julian wipes his face with the sleeve of his cardigan. The money, he says. $200,000. I do not understand. Where did it come from, I tell him. Not everything, not yet, but the outline, the condo, the 7 years of payments, the scheme Kevin and Linda had planned, and the scheme I executed in response, the quitclaim deed, the sale, the escape. His eyes widen as I talk. He does not interrupt. He just listens, his hand still holding mine, his gaze fixed on my face like he is memorizing every word. When I finish, he is quiet for a moment. You destroyed him, he says finally. Kevin, you took everything. I shake my head. I took what was mine, I say. The rest he destroyed himself. Julian nods slowly. He understands. He has spent 30 years watching Kevin destroy things. He knows how the man operates. What will you do now, he asks. Where will you go? I look around the bookstore. The crowded shelves, the dusty light, the smell of old paper and older stories. It feels like a place where someone could hide, a place where someone could rest. I do not know yet, I say. I need to figure out who I am without them. Without the name, without the family, without the life I thought I was living. Julian squeezes my hand. You could stay here, he says. Portland, I mean. There is a room above the store. It is not much, but it is quiet. And I could use the help if you are looking for something to do. I look at him. This man I have known for less than an hour. This stranger who shares my blood. Are you offering me a job, I ask. I am offering you a place to start, he says. Whatever you want that to mean. I think about it. A small room above a bookstore. Dusty shelves and quiet afternoons, and the company of a man who is learning how to be my father. It is not much. It is not the life I thought I would have, but it is mine. Completely, freely, honestly mine. Okay, I say. I will stay. Julian smiles. It is a real smile this time, not the automatic greeting he gives to customers. It reaches his eyes, fills his whole face, transforms him into someone who looks younger and lighter than the man I saw through the window. We close the store early. Julian locks the door and flips the sign while I stand among the shelves, still trying to understand that this is real. That I am here. That the man I have been searching for is 5 feet away, wiping tears from his face with the sleeve of his cardigan. There is a small apartment upstairs, he says. I live there. It is not much, but there is tea. And I think we have a lot to talk about. I follow him up a narrow staircase that creaks with every step. The apartment is exactly what I expected. Small, cluttered, filled with books. Every surface holds stacks of paperbacks and hardcovers, towers of words rising toward the ceiling. The furniture is old but comfortable, the kind of pieces you keep not because they are beautiful, but because they are yours. He makes tea while I sit on a faded green couch and look around at the life he has built. There are no photographs on the walls, no family pictures, no vacation snapshots, no evidence of connections to anyone or anything. Just books. I tried to forget you, he says. He hands me a cup and sits across from me in an armchair that has molded itself to his shape. After the money ran out, after Kevin stopped answering my emails, I told myself I had to move on, that holding on to hope was killing me. He takes a sip of his tea. I could not do it. Every day I would think about you, wonder what you were doing, whether you were happy, whether Kevin was treating you well. He treated me like property, I say. The words come out flat, matter of fact. I have had time to process the anger. What remains is just the truth, hard and cold and undeniable. He took my money. He stole my home. He let me believe I was his daughter while he cashed your checks. Julian closes his eyes. I suspected, he says. I hoped I was wrong. I hoped that at least he would be good to you, even if he was using me. He opens his eyes and looks at me. I am sorry. I am so sorry. I should have done more. I should have found a way to reach you, to tell you the truth, to get you out of there. How could you? I ask. He had all the power. He had the money, the connections, the legal ownership of me. You were just a man who loved someone you were not allowed to love. Julian shakes his head. That is not an excuse, he says. I was afraid. I paid his blackmail because I was afraid of what would happen if I did not. I told myself I was protecting you, protecting your mother, but really I was protecting myself. From scandal, from shame, from having to explain to everyone what I had done. He sets down his cup. I had an affair with a married woman. I got her pregnant. I walked away when it got hard. Those are the facts. Whatever Kevin did afterward, I created the situation that allowed him to do it. You did not walk away, I say. You stayed. You paid. You watched from a distance for 30 years. That is not the same as being a father. I think about Kevin, about the man I called Dad for 29 years, about the way he looked at me like I was furniture, spoke to me like I was staff, took my money like I was a tenant in my own life. It is more than I had, I say. We sit in silence for a long moment. The tea cools in our cups. Outside, the Portland evening is settling in gray light, fading to darkness, the city wrapping itself in fog. Tell me about her, I say finally. My mother. What was she like before Julian's face changes? The grief is still there, but something else appears alongside it. Memory. A glimpse of something that used to be bright. She was electric, he says. The first time I met her at that conference in Portland, she was arguing with a presenter about something I do not even remember now. Her voice was loud, her hands were moving. Everyone in the room was staring at her, and she did not care. She was completely alive. He smiles just slightly. I fell in love with her in about 30 seconds. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it is true. I looked at her and I thought, there is someone who knows what it means to feel things. There is someone who is not afraid to take up space. That does not sound like my mother, I say. No, he agrees. It does not. Kevin did that to her. Over the years, I watched her shrink. Every time I saw her from a distance, she looked smaller, quieter, like someone had turned down her volume until she was barely audible. He looks at me. I think she transferred all of that fire to you. When you were growing up, she could not be loud anymore, so she made sure you could be. At least that is what I hoped. I think about this. About my mother, who always told me to speak up, to stand up for myself, to not let anyone push me around. Advice she never followed herself. Advice that makes more sense now that I know where it came from. She was afraid of him, I say. Kevin. That is why she stayed. Julian nods. She told me in the early days, before everything fell apart. She told me what he was like behind closed doors, the threats, the manipulation, the way he could make you feel like you were crazy for thinking something was wrong. She was trapped before I ever met her. I just made the trap tighter. He stands up and walks to the window. I have had 30 years to think about what I should have done differently, he says. His back is to me now. 30 years of imagining the life we could have had if I had been braver. But the truth is, I do not know if anything would have worked. Kevin is smart. Kevin is ruthless. Kevin plays a long game. Even if I had tried to take her away, he would have found a way to win. He turns around. But you did it, he says. You actually beat him. You took back what was yours. I took back some of it, I say. The money, the property. But I cannot take back 29 years. I cannot undo what he did to me or to you or to my mother. No, Julian says. But you can decide what comes next. He sits back down closer this time on the edge of the chair. I do not know how to be a father, he says. I have never done it. I do not know if I can do it. But I would like to try. If you will let me. I know I have no right to ask. I know I failed you before you were even born. But if there is any chance, any possibility at all, I would like to be part of your life. I look at this man, this stranger who shares my blood. He is old. He is tired. He has spent 3 decades paying for a mistake he made in his 20s, and it has broken him in ways that may never heal. But he is also here. He is asking. He is offering something that no one in the Bennett family ever offered me. The choice. I do not know how to have a father, I say. I never really had one. Kevin was always more like a landlord than a parent. Someone who expected payment, not someone who gave anything away. I set down my tea. But I would like to try too. Not father and daughter, not yet, maybe not ever, but something. Some kind of relationship that we build ourselves without Kevin, without the blackmail, without all the history that has been suffocating us both. Julian reaches out. His hand stops halfway between us, an offer, not a demand. I take it. His fingers are warm and dry, and they tremble slightly as they close around mine. We sit there for a long moment, not speaking, just holding on. 2 people who have been alone for a very long time finally finding someone who understands. Welcome to Portland, Julian says. His voice cracks on the last syllable. Welcome home. Home. I have never had one of those. Not really. The condo was property, not home. The house where I grew up was a prison I did not recognize. I have spent my entire life looking for a place where I belonged, and I never found it. Maybe home is not a place. Maybe it is a person. Maybe it is a choice you make every day to show up and try and believe that something better is possible. I look at Julian, at his tired eyes and his gray hair and his hands that have not stopped trembling since I walked through the door. Thank you, I say. For what? For waiting. For 30 years. For never giving up even when you had every reason to. He squeezes my hand. You were worth it, he says. Every penny. Every sleepless night. Every moment of hoping against hope. You were worth all of it. Something shifts inside me. Some frozen thing that has been solid for as long as I can remember beginning to thaw. I am going to need a place to stay, I say, while I figure out what comes next. Julian looks around at his small book-filled apartment. There is a storage room in the back, he says. I have been meaning to clear it out. We could set up a bed, maybe a desk. It would not be much, but it would be yours. Yours. The word sounds different when he says it. Not a claim, not a transaction. Just a gift offered freely with no strings attached. I would like that, I say. And for the first time since I left Seattle, I feel something that might be peace. Later that night, after Julian has gone to bed, I sit at the small desk he cleared for me, and I write. Not a journal entry, not a letter to anyone specific. Just words pouring out of me like water from a broken dam. I think about all the people like me. The invisible ones. The ones who grew up in houses where they were tolerated rather than loved. The ones who spent their childhoods trying to earn affection that was never available. The ones who are still trapped, still paying, still believing that if they just try a little harder, things will change. I want to tell them something. I want to tell them what I learned. I pick up my pen and I write. To you, the invisible ones. They told you that family is everything, that blood is thicker than water, that the people who raised you deserve your loyalty, your gratitude, your endless forgiveness for the ways they have hurt you. They used those words like chains. They wrapped them around your wrists and your ankles and your throat, and they pulled tight whenever you tried to walk away. They made you believe that leaving would mean betraying something sacred, that staying no matter the cost was the only honorable choice. I believed them once. I paid for that belief with 7 years of my life and more money than I can bring myself to calculate. I paid with my self-respect, my confidence, my ability to trust my own perceptions. I paid and paid and paid, and the debt never got smaller. It only grew, feeding on my silence and my hope. But the most expensive thing I lost was the ability to believe in myself, to trust my own perceptions, to know that what I felt was real, even when they told me I was overreacting, ungrateful, too sensitive. They taught me to doubt myself so thoroughly that I stopped existing as a person. I became a mirror reflecting their needs, their wants, their version of who I should be. If you recognize yourself in these words, then I want to tell you something important. You are not crazy. You are not ungrateful. You are not the problem they have convinced you that you are. The people who love you do not make you pay for that love. They do not keep a ledger in their heads tallying every sacrifice waiting for the moment when they can collect. They do not use your childhood as a debt, your housing as leverage, your need for belonging as a weapon. If the people who raised you do these things, they are not your family. They are your captors. And the house they gave you, the one with your name on, none of the paperwork, is not a home. It is a prison with comfortable furniture. Do not wait for them to change. They will not change. People who see you as property do not wake up one day and decide to see you as a person. That is not how it works. Do not wait for them to give you permission to leave. They will never give that permission. Why would they? You are too useful where you are. Too quiet. Too compliant. Too profitable. You have to give yourself permission. You have to be the one who decides that enough is enough. You have to look at the bars of your cage and understand that no one is coming to open the door. You have to open it yourself. It will hurt. I will not lie about that. Walking away from people who raised you, even people who hurt you, leaves wounds that take a long time to heal. You will grieve. You will doubt yourself. You will have nights when the loneliness feels unbearable and the voice in your head sounds exactly like theirs, telling you that you made a mistake, that you should go back, that you cannot survive without them. You can survive. You are stronger than they taught you to believe. The weakness they saw in you was never real. It was just the version of yourself they needed you to be. Find the real version. She is in there, buried under years of conditioning and fear. She has been waiting for you to notice her, to listen to her, to give her room to breathe. Let her out. And if you have to sell the house they gave you, the one with all the strings attached, the one that was never really yours, then sell it. Sell it for less than it is worth if you have to. Sell it and take the money and run. The name on the deed does not matter. The name on the mortgage does not matter. The only name that matters is the one you choose for yourself, the one that belongs to the person you are becoming. I chose Rose. It is my middle name, the one my mother gave me without thinking, the one that was never important enough to weaponize. Now it is the only name I answer to. What will yours be? You get to decide. For the first time in your life, you get to decide. Take that power. Hold it close. Do not let anyone take it from you again. I set down the pen and look out the window. The rain is still falling soft and steady, washing the streets of a city I am only beginning to know. Somewhere below me, Julian is sleeping in his book-filled apartment. Somewhere far away, Kevin Bennett is dealing with the wreckage of the life he built on lies. I do not know what happens next. I do not know if Julian and I will become the family we both lost. I do not know if my mother will ever break free of Kevin, or if Tiffany will ever understand what she was part of. I do not know if the wounds we have all inflicted on each other will ever fully heal. But I know this. I am not Chloe Bennett anymore. I am not the invisible daughter, the convenient tenant, the doormat who paid for the privilege of being ignored. I am Rose Moore. I am 29 years old. I work at a bookstore in Portland with a man who is learning how to be my father. I have scars that will never disappear and hopes that refuse to die. I am free, and that in the end is all that matters.